Yeah. Okay, everybody, welcome to the June 18th, 2025 regularly scheduled meeting of the Town of Eastham Planning Board at 5 p.m. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. Besides that recording, is anybody doing any recording in the audience? Okay, having seen none, fine. Okay, we have a heavy agenda tonight, not a lot of items, but they're going to take some time. The first item is an approval not required. I'll go through my normal explanation of approval not required. Basically, this planning board is authorized to sign a plat. We don't bless the subdivision. We don't investigate whether or not anything's going on underground in the subdivision that would cause a problem with these lot line changes. We are simply acknowledging the fact that a simple lot line change is allowed by law in the state of Massachusetts, which results in a change of property line between two property owners. The plat is here tonight. And Paul, we do need a motion to sign it or what? Okay, first of all, does anybody on the board have any questions on this? It's on the corner of Arbor Way, which is a private road, and Snow Road. There are two property owners. They want to change the line to more even out the physical appearance of the two lots. Anybody have any problems with it? Nobody? Anybody in the audience want to speak on this? Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve the A&R for, let's see, I should probably just endorsing, all right, so is there a motion to authorize the endorsement of the plan for the A&R for case number PB 2025-10 as submitted?
So moved.
Is any discussion? All in favor? Brian?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
You're down there.
Steve, aye.
Steve, I couldn't read. Kevin?
Aye.
Patricia?
Aye.
Michelle? And chair votes aye. So we are going to sign that now. Okay.
Awesome.
Why don't we each go down there and
At least you have to get an eye. No, great explanation.
next?
Everyone has to sign meeting.
All set? Okay. That was easy. At the request of the application for case number PB 2025-08, the applicant is represented by Mr. Ben Zender. He has an Orleans meeting after this one tonight. At the agreement of the applicant for case number PB 2025-06. We are going to take these two out of order. So the next case I will call is PB 2025-08, 435 Shirtlift Road, as shown on map 7, parcel 142A, Michael A. Nargi and Kerry L. Picard, owners and applicants seek site plan approval residential pursuant to the Eastham zoning bylaw, section 7.4.4 residential lot intensity, and section 10.3 site plan approval residential to demolish an existing dwelling and detached accessory garage guest house and construct a new dwelling on a lot containing 20,000 square feet or more where the site coverage exceeds 3,000 square feet. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Kaufman. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. My name is Ben Zender, and I'm here on behalf of Michael Nargi and Kerry Picard, who are the owners at 435 Shirtlift. I want to thank Mr. Klink for allowing me to step out of line. Thank you, Tim. This is, and I want to let you know, we're not seeking a vote of the board tonight, and for the simple reason that this project has already been in front of an initial review with Conservation Commission on July 8th. We're going back on July 22nd. We're going to be making some project changes based on some feedback that we got from Conservation. We don't expect that they will change the house itself, meaning that the structure itself, we're not looking for any significant changes, but there may be a reworking of the garage, removal of a pool on the water side, and then a slight pushing, maybe a pushing of the house a little bit closer to the road. So, and that change of location may change ridge heights, for example. So we're not asking you to vote on this until you have a plan that you can review. But we're hoping that that we can present the application, answer any questions that you have, get any feedback that you have, maybe incorporate that feedback into what we come back with you for the next meeting. This also has to go to historic. It's going in front of historic on August 14th for permission to demolish the buildings that are on the site because they're more than 75 years old. So I'm sure you've all been out to the site. It's a wonderful site. The lot area has been calculated by one of the members of our team, Sean Riley from Ty Bond, who's on the line. He can answer any questions about the plan. Our architect, Kendra Seifert, is sitting right behind me. She's designed the home, done a great job. And I don't know if anybody from Wilkinson Ecological is online, but we've submitted a planting plan as well. The proposal here on this lot, it's 34,896 square feet of buildable upland calculated at astronomical high tide, which is your new calculation. That would allow us to have 4,188 square feet of site coverage based on the formula, which means we're staying below that, which means we don't need a variance we wouldn't get. We don't require any zoning relief in this matter, but because we have more than 3,000 square feet of site coverage, we do require your approval under your site plan review bylaw. We're proposing to remove both structures and then consolidate everything into a single building footprint on the south side of the lot. When you were out there, you saw they almost look like separate structures. There's the house, and then there's this studio structure with dwelling space and storage space. That's being removed. That side of the property, with the exception of the driveway, is going to be restored. It's really in the nature, it's in a floodplain. It's got some coastal dune aspects to it. That's going to be restored pursuant to a fairly comprehensive restoration plan by Wilkinson, and then building a single home with total site coverage of 3,896 square feet. We expect the final plan will have that pool on the water side removed with more amenities built on the roadside. You have in your package elevations and floor plans for the structure. They're attractive. We've also submitted for the board's review some calculations of the other home sizes in the area. I won't go through them for you. I think your staff drafted an excellent staff report that outlines all these issues for you. So with that being said, I'd really love to be able to just engage with you and have any feedback that you have on this project that we need to be understanding about when we come back to you at the next meeting. And that's the longest sentence I can give you right now.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does your consultant who's on Zoom want to say anything at this point?
Sean, I don't know if Sean wants to add.
Okay. And the architect, do you want to say anything at this point? No? Okay. I'm sure board members have gotten out there. It's a very interesting site with a very steep cliff at the rear. I guess my first question is, the necessity to have the two driveways, is there a reason to have the lower driveway?
Yeah, there really is. I mean, in the nature of, you've been out there, Shirtlift Road is not a big road. It doesn't really provide any off-street off-site parking. They have family that comes to visit. They're consolidating all this one building, but they still need to have the ability not only to park their guests and their family cars, but also, and there's really not much space between the house and the road and the house site itself for drive area. And also they have a boat they like to park in the off season. So they really do need, some driveway space on the property where they can have that off the road for safety reasons. So.
And also, if you end up moving the house forward, you're going to lose some driveway area that way too.
Driveway there as well.
So, okay. Board members, I realize this is preliminary, but certainly we'll check with everybody. Brian.
I don't know if you can answer this question, but how long in duration would would this be under construction for?
I have with me Rob McPhee, who is with the company. So I think, Rob, do you think you can answer the question?
14 months.
14 months, so over a year. Yeah.
Yeah, just over a year.
And then the other question I have is concerning the aesthetics and fitting into the neighborhood, subjective.
Of course.
How would you say that that the proposed home fits into the rest of the neighborhood? Because there are 5 or 6 really nice, or maybe 7 or 8 on Shirtlift, and that would be the corner, kind of the cornerstone.
Yeah.
But how would you say that would fit in?
Well, again, you're really asking a subjective question because the bylaw doesn't talk to, we don't use form-based zoning essentially for this. What we're looking for is we're looking for certain elements to be incorporated to try to manage the scale and the massing in terms of roof lines and recesses and dormers, porches, things like that. This property has been built to address those concerns that are, or not concerns, standards in the bylaw. It's not a Cape style house. It's what I would call a gambrel or maybe even shingle style house. So which is becoming more and more popular on the Cape and the Outer Cape. So it's a different architectural style than what we're used to. We're usually used to using, straight, dormer based Cape Cod style architecture. So we think it fits in. We think a diversity of architecture is something that is welcome. But if you're a lover of old Cape style architecture.
Sure. On that, on the very corner of campground and beach and is the big salt box, and that's gonna go away. And then you're gonna develop something that you just mentioned, is that?
Yeah, this is the, I think you've seen the elevations.
Yeah.
This will be the single house that replaces both of those structures.
Thanks. That's
Thank
all. That's
you.
all.
Thank you, Earle. Thank you.
I wasn't loud enough, sorry.
Apparently your mic wasn't on. Okay, Dave.
I like the project. I think it's pretty large, but what are you gonna do about that? Do you need anything special for the stairs that go down to the beach and so?
Yes, we have an application in front of the Conservation Commission for a stair set down to the beach. It's going to involve a stairway down to the revetment, and then they're going to rebuild the revetment with incorporated stone stairs built right into the revetment going down, so the lower part of the stairway is not subject to, being destroyed by weather events. So in fact, that is one of the elements that's being reviewed by the Cons Company.
That's all.
Thank you.
Stephen.
I just had this one question. I was reading the notes on this. It says the proposed project does not avoid impact on steep slopes, floodplains, hilltops, dunes, scenic views, and wetlands. And I read,
Standards and criteria.
Understood.
That's it.
I'm sorry, section was 8.
Was there a question buried in that?
Well, there's a lengthy explanation of what you're doing, but I'm curious to know, maybe I could ask the guy prepared why it says does not avoid impact.
Well, that's really a finding of fact for the board to make. I think your staff prepared a report with an explanation of the project itself, but it's left for you to make a finding whether it does or does not avoid those impacts. To address that question directly, it's impossible to avoid steep slopes on this lot. That's the nature of this lot. So really, you're not avoiding steep slopes. What you're doing is you're mitigating and trying to
Mitigating it.
design in such a way that we consolidate the whole project in one place. So if that's a good, I hope that answers your question, Mr. Nunn.
That'll do. Thank you.
I hope you make the finding that it does not, but,
Okay,
or it does. I'm sorry, it does.
right. Kevin.
Yeah, I took that as it's affecting it in a positive way.
Mhm.
Because with the other building coming down, you're really going in there and, I won't say backfilling, but you're building it up more with landscaping and so forth, which to me I took as a positive to help stabilize that kind of thing. So that I thought was it's affecting it, yes, but in a positive way.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Only question I have is, and again, this is more of a subjective thing, but given the new height of the new building, I don't know the exact height of that, but I guess different way of saying that. The people who are on the other side of the street on Shirtlift, who presumably have enjoyed many sunsets and so forth from where they are back a ways in their lot. Does the height of this new building impact them in a negative way? Their view, their joy of looking out over the bay, is that being harmed in any way because of the height of the structure.
Well, first of all, that is, again, is a very subjective determination. I have found in my practice that abutters are the clearest expression of adverse impact because they know exactly. And I've always said, and I try to explain to my clients, it's not whether you're affecting somebody's view, it's whether you're changing somebody's view. People don't like a change in their view. I can tell you that the calculated height of the structure is going from 28.14 feet above average grade to 29.6 feet. So it's an increase above average grade. Now, that doesn't mean that house is taller than what's there. It just means the calculation is of roughly 1.5 feet. But I haven't, this hasn't been sent out to public comment yet, but we had nobody show up at conservation with expressing concerns. I checked with staff today, nobody's written any letters. I think it's really, that's really the best expression you're going to get of that type of harm.
I mean, having watched many a sunset from campground parking lot, it depends on the time of year, really. I could see it being more of a problem during the winter months because the sun is
Further over, sure.
further over.
Yeah.
This time of year, it probably wouldn't impact it at all. But I wanted to just ask that question because while it is a subjective question, what we have to do and what the bylaw does allow us to do is factor in some of these subjective questions because we want to look at the impact on the neighborhood of the properties that are going in there. But I didn't look at it as being terribly problematic, but if in the event it did come up, I wanted to know if that had been.
Well, at the risk of being argumentative, and maybe I'm saying this just for future hearings to come before the board. We always say in Massachusetts law, there's no right to a view. And I always put it more colloquially, that's why these lots cost more than the lots in the back. But you're right, these changes, and especially when somebody removes a smaller house and builds a larger house, 1.8 changes the view significantly. And so we really hope that abutters will come to us as part of the process and express any concerns they have. We try to address them. But this one, as you all can see, this program that Kendra did a wonderful job bringing to life really had a very, very, very limited building area because of the conservation lines that run through there. The northern part of this, I don't know if the board can see this, but what happens is the coastal dune wraps around the northern part of this lot and flows back around into where that driveway is. So that just takes that entire part of the lot off the table for really doing any kind of work. So they were really forced to keep it in that one location. So I think you're right, Mr. Gatlin. It's possible that it affects the view in some way, but they did the best that they could.
Okay.
Thank you.
Patricia?
So did you say you're thinking now of moving the house forward a little bit closer to the street?
Conservation Commission expressed a concern about the proximity of the structure itself to the top of the coastal bank.
Yeah.
There's really, in looking at the site plan, the board can see there's really very little room to move this house because the building setback is 30 feet from the road. You have 25 feet from the sidelines, and we also have wetland lines. So any movement that you're going to see is going to be a matter of feet, a small number of feet. But we're trying to do everything we can to address the concerns the Conservation Commission have expressed. So that's going to change just for the board. It's going to change the way the garage works. It's going to change the way the driveway works. But it's not going to change the basic architectural style of the house other than maybe the orientation of the garage.
Michelle?
Yeah, so hi,
Hi.
great project, love it. There's a couple of questions that were already answered. When's the CONSCOM meeting? That's July 22nd. Historic review, I have down, that was 8/14. No abutter letters yet. Okay, that's good. Do we need Board of Health approval here?
We do. The applicant's
When's that?
been in front of the Board of Health, presented the project. The Board of Health wants to see the CONSCOM approval before they take a final vote.
Okay,
We would hope that any vote you make would be subject to all other permits that are required.
okay, so that is contingent upon the CONSCOM outcome.
It is. The Board of Health, look, again, this lot only provides for certain areas for that septic
Right.
system to exist because of the wetland.
Yes.
But the Board of Health, in issuing their variances for replacement of the septic system, wanted to see the conservation.
Perfect, because that wasn't in here. And then the other thing was the sightlines on the driveway, you know, as Mr. Earle said, it is on the corner there, and, you know, I see the thing and, you know, all the vegetation and, you know, I love the landscaping plan and all that. And you've overachieved on, you know, sort of the native species side, so, and that's why I asked about the septic system too, so I mean, has that been reviewed other than just it's drawn on here that we have safety? It's coming around a corner there and then your garage is gonna be facing a different oh, sorry. Oh, your garage is gonna be facing a different direction
Okay.
from, coming out on the street. So I just had a question. I always wonder about safety there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't answer this question intelligently because I
Yeah.
haven't thought about that issue.
Okay.
I can tell you that the traffic on Shirtlift Road is not fast. You
No,
know,
I understand.
People coming in and out of this property are gonna be moving very slowly, moving in and out. They really can't do a lot of cutting or anything else to improve sightlines on the north side of the
Right.
property. Because it's a resource area.
I know.
So I think what we're going to try to do is just provide safe and adequate entry in and out and then turning areas within.
Turning areas, yeah,
Yes,
because of where that garage is.
exactly. That's one of the things that we're looking at right now is how, because I understand the chair is always cognizant of
Yeah.
turning areas. We're going to try to
Sure.
provide a turning area within the
And
site.
I just ask for any more detail in our next review on
Absolutely.
that particular.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
No more, Mr.
Okay, I actually have a couple of positive comments here. I'm glad you faced the garage doors away from the street. That to me is something that I like to see.
That may change, Mr. Koppelman.
I understand.
Okay, but
However,
remember it.
if you could, I'd like it to stay that way, just from your enjoyment of the property and from the people driving by. Garage doors aren't particularly attractive and it's nicer to have the side of the house. But if you change it because of conservation makes you change it, I can't do anything about it.
Thank you.
Secondly, your view is actually going to improve in some respects at the north because you're taking out the structure. So while you may compromise the straight view, perhaps somebody would get a better diagonal view with that second structure removed. So I think there's some issue in terms of positive issue in terms of reflecting that. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this? Yes, please come forward to the podium, speak your name and address. Is the mic on? Paul?
Is the mic on?
Yes.
Lisa Pratt, I'm at 355 Plateau. Excuse me, 355 Plateau on the corner of Shirtlift and Plateau.
Okay.
So I'm in a butter. First, I did not receive anything from the conservation, so like I definitely would have shown up if I had gotten a notification that happened when you had mentioned that,
Yeah, I don't know if you're within the radius. I just.
oh, for conservation, only for
I think they
zoning.
go at 100 feet, so I'm not sure.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, just a couple of things, having read through all of this. So in the write-up, it says that the site coverage only goes up by 3%. Actually, from a percentage increase, it's 42.7%, not 3%. And another way of looking at that is kind of like the max percentage of coverage went from a 65% to a 93%. So it really is maximizing the coverage on a very key area. I will say that points, I think 6 and 7, I'm going to disagree. I think that it does not keep with the neighborhood. It really is a neighborhood of small cottages, 1 to 1.5 story types of buildings. In the data that was provided about the size of the other structures, the average size of all the other structures for the data provided was 1,979 square feet. So this one is double that. So that does not feel to me like it's kind of in keeping with the neighborhood. Let me see some other comments. I have some pictures. Unfortunately, I left them the printouts on the printer at work. I do them on the iPad. If you go out onto the into the water, like at low tide, when you look along that whole area, the only place that has this like density of really big houses is this area on Shirtlift. And everywhere else, there may be a big house here or there, but it's not like that density of one big house after another. And so I really feel that is not in keeping with the kind of the look of the rest of the area. Let me see. One thing, this is a question. So I think, if I read correctly, that the allowable site coverage is based on the buildable area. And so I'm curious if that whole area is kind of almost like half the lot is much lower, how only 4,875 feet were subtracted from the plot size as being not buildable. I don't know if there's a engineer or something here who can answer that question.
Through the chair, if you'd like me to answer that question.
Sure, go ahead.
Sean Riley from Ty and Bond. So the area is calculated to the highest astronomical tide. In this area, it is to elevation 7.12. So the lot area goes out to that contour, and that lower area is above that elevation of 7.12, where the existing building is. So really, the area that they're losing off of their lot area is that area from mean high water to the highest astronomical tide, which is essentially from around elevation 3 to elevation 7. So that's why it's only reducing by 5,000 some odd square feet.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me see. What else? Oh, and I would say, yes, from a view perspective, this definitely is intrusive. When you think about how that kind of the garage building is the one that is creating the height right now, but that's starting from the very, very low area. And the new house, you're starting from the high area. So you're adding the 29 feet from the high area as opposed to the 28 feet from the low area. So the impact, the up impact is sizable. I'd say that's more detrimental than any benefit from knocking down the garage. And it absolutely is impacting views, which is one of the criteria in the whatever does not meet item. In terms of I think you asked a question about how long it would last. Okay, it was about 14 months. I'm guessing we don't know when it would start because it hasn't gone through everything.
Correct.
Is that okay? All right, because that would be the next question. I am curious what would be done to avoid having cars and trucks not parked illegally on Shirtlift, which is not allowed to have any parking on it, given especially that this is a high traffic area with families and wagons and beachgoers and that kind of thing. So I'm wondering, because pretty much for every one of those other houses, there's been a constant trucks just parked there and people having to go into the middle of the road to get around them. And then my other ask would be, if work starts, can it, especially during the summertime, could it not start at 7 a.m.? It's really, really disruptive to people in a summer area that are trying to enjoy a vacation. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. You'll have another opportunity. This is going to be continued.
Okay.
So anybody else who has concerns and ideas, please, we want to expose them tonight, but you're also going to have next month, this is going to be on the agenda, so that certainly you have a chance to look at the modifications that conservation may provide and comment back, because we haven't seen yet the site plan that's going to be technically asked for approval yet. It's going to be like this, but there is going to be some modifications.
Can I ask, do I need to put this in writing? Because
No.
I didn't know, somebody asked
You're allowed to write a
Oh, okay.
letter.
Because somebody asked if there were any abutter letters, and I did not know that was a requirement.
Not a requirement, but you're welcome to.
Okay.
So certainly you can do that.
Okay.
And your testimony will be included in the record.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Zender, would you like to request a continuation to our next meeting?
Unless the members have any other comments. they wanna share
Anybody
with us.
else have anything at this point in time? Okay.
Thank you. I would request continuation to your next meeting.
Are you going to be able to get all that stuff worked out before the next meeting?
Well, I don't know when the next meeting is.
Paul, do we have that?
It's next week.
Jackie?
No. Sorry, is it
The
the
20th?
The 30th?
It's the 20th of
20th.
August. And your,
Oh, so it's the 20th of August. Thank you.
it's, and your, historic meeting is 8/14.
Yeah,
Oh, he
It's
said
the
12/14. That's a 12.
is it really? Thank you. I have it wrong in my calendar. Okay, thanks, Attesting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very
so-
good.
Okay, so yeah, I think so. If we're not ready, we'll probably,
Yeah, just, you don't have to show up, just write a letter and we'll continue to the following meeting. Okay, so we have a request by the applicant for a motion to continue case number PB 2025-08 to our regularly scheduled meeting in August 20, is it? 2015.
one final comment, Mr. Calvin. Anybody in the audience?
I'm sorry, yes.
Anyone who wishes to reach out to me with any concerns or requests, my information is right on the application.
Right.
So I would ask anybody to reach out to me directly.
And I would suggest that. And by the way, also document to this board if you have any concerns that have gone through outside of the board channels. We'd like to see a record of it. Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Just say, I thought we did.
No. No, just.
No.
Okay, so moved. I'll second it. Any discussion? Thought I already asked that. Okay, all in favor? Aye, you
Aye.
just say aye. Anybody opposed? No. See you next month.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Stay cool.
Okay. Let's see. So now we will call case number PB 2025-06 for 420 Meetinghouse Road as shown on map 9, parcel 140, Gary Doolittle, owner applicant. Seeks site plan approval residential pursuant to Eastham zoning bylaw, section 7.4.4, residential lot intensity, and section 10.3, site plan approval residential, to construct an accessory structure on a lot containing 20,000 square feet or more, where the site coverage exceeds 3,000 square feet. This application was continued from our May 21st, 2025 meeting, allowing the applicant to provide some additional data as necessary, and he is here tonight. So shall we open it up? Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Tim Clank with the Coastal Companies, and with me is Gary Doolittle, the client and homeowner. Before we start, just a procedural question in terms of the sitting board members tonight and.
Okay,
how-
let me go through that.
Yeah,
Stephen was not here. However, we wanted to give you the benefit of the most number of votes.
yeah.
So Stephen has evoked the Mullen Rule.
Okay.
And the Mullen Rule allows him to look at the videotape and go to the town clerk and attest to the fact that he reviewed the tape and he's fully up to speed on this application. So having said that, Stephen is now allowed to vote on this application because he had missed last month's meeting. So that's where we are. And everybody else, the regular members are all here. So you've got a full board. Okay?
So I'll review some of the changes we made, and I can always back up and talk about, some earlier comments I made at the last hearing. So after we met 2 months ago, we came back, Gary and I spent some time taking in neighbor comments. There's a lot of concerns by the neighbors of the size of the project and what we're doing. So we made a couple changes. Most of it is to the architecture of the garage, the retaining walls, and then some planting areas around that. So if you look at our design plans for the garage, you look at page A 1.0, you're gonna notice on the left-hand side, we've actually removed a window, a couple windows and a light fixture on that side. We did that to reduce any visibility that would come out of the garage structure, lights, things like that. It allowed us to bring the retaining walls closer to the front of the building, but also gave us the ability to plant more native plant material on that abutting side of the project. You can see that in A 2.0, you'll see how the doors have gone, the retaining walls have moved forward, and thus you're seeing just sidewall shingles on that side of the building versus windows and doors. So that was the main architectural change that we had made to the garage itself, and then on our site plan. And in my narrative, we had revegetated the area behind the garage. Right now, there's a pretty well-established Leland cypress border that's on 3 sides of the property. We've mitigated inside of that with native plant species, and these came off of the Cape Cod Commission native plants list. It's also the Eastham conservation plant list. In my narrative, if you go to just after the site coverage calculation table, you'll see our mitigation plant list of what we're using. And it's a mixture of viburnums, northern bayberries, sweet pepper bushes, blueberries, and swamp azaleas. And that's all very typical of understory plant material that you would see. Most of these plants are meant to get up anywhere from 6 to 8 feet tall. That's really about as tall as you want them to get because it's very shady in that area, and we have the extreme screening of legal and cypresses. The other thing that I want to bring up is one of the big things that came up during our last meeting was the property bounds, encroachments on neighboring properties, the removal and relocation of concrete bounds. So Gary and I spent some time walking the property and actually going from point to point of the entire property. The last 3 pages of my narrative document exactly what we did and where we start. And I want to take you for kind of a walk around the property because I believe this is very important because one of the things that came out of the last hearing is a lot of misinformation in terms of what had happened. There's a lot of neighbors that feel that Mr. Doolittle has gone in, physically removed the bounds, dumped them on the property, located them other locations, and we found all that information to be entirely untrue. The other thing I want to really stress before I get into this is this property has been professionally surveyed by a PE and a PLS. And one of the things that I've read in neighbor comments was we have no site plan, we have no engineer, we have no surveyor. This has all been surveyed by a professional engineer who's been working on and in Cape Cod for over 40 years. Tim Brady's a very well qualified engineer, very well known in the area, and his surveys are clean, they're truth, they're all deed protected. So this survey is a very accurate survey of where we're working. So where we started was we started on Meetinghouse Road, and if you look at the property from Meetinghouse Road, point A would be your right-hand side. So that would be where the utility pole is there. Utility poles and electrical services are typically located on or around property corners so that you have your utilities on your property. And typically utility poles will denotate a property bound. However, they won't be actually on the property corner. They'll be usually within a road layout. So right next to point A, there is a bound in that corner. It was kind of hard to photograph it because it was deep buried in the woods, but there's a very clear concrete bound that exists in that corner. As you travel down that property line for about 268 feet, it's going to bring you to point B, which is the property bound that is between parcel 141 and parcel 137. So if you look at Tim Brady's plan, you're going to see the Purnell Cossett property at 141, and then you're going to see the Schmidt parcel at 137. The bound that we found there has a pin next to it, which was also in a letter that came from one of the abutters showing that same pin. And if you look at that bound, you're going to notice that it's very weathered. It's pitted. It's got a lot of broken chunks of concrete. It's clearly a bound that's been there a really long time. If you picked up and removed the bound, you're going to have scrapes on it. You're going to have shovel marks on it, especially if you did it with a machine. You're going to damage that. There's no way to pick up a 4-foot tall 6x6 concrete bound without damaging it if you're attempting to relocate it. This bound clearly has been there a long time. That point between 141 and 137 exactly matches up with the deeds of the Schmidt property and the Purnell Cossett property. So we have no reason to believe that that bound ever would have been removed. And if you look at my picture, you're going to see as the property line heads down that the Leo and cypresses that Mr. Doolittle planted are clearly on his property. He's also done some filling in that corner, but none of that filling has gone on to the neighboring properties. There's still existing vegetation. These pictures I'll take a couple weeks ago. The next point I want to bring up is in the rear right corner, and this is the point that delineates the Schmidt property and the Hodish property, if I say that right, parcel 138. Same thing, we found a bound there, it's about 6 inches tall. It's very heavily weathered. There's a surveyor ribbon right above it, and it's surrounded by existing vegetation. So for this bound to have been moved, you would have had disturbance of a lot of that vegetation. As we continue around, we come back up to Meetinghouse Road, and we find another bound right there that identifies parcel 139 and our subject parcel 140. And that's what point D, and that bound is there as well. This does have some disturbance around it on the right side, but you can still see the native vegetation clearly where the line is. And if you look back, you'll see that the Leon cypresses are clearly planted on Mr. Doolittle's property. So I wanted to really kind of just clarify with the board that there's been no movement of bounds. There's been no earth disturbance on neighboring properties. There's been no regrading on neighboring properties. While there has been extensive regrading on the subject property, it has not extended onto the neighbor's property. There were some comments in the past that bounds were seen on the property thrown in dirt piles. I can't comment where they've come from or where that dirt came from. Mr. Doolittle did have Phil brought into the property and moved around. It could have come from who knows where. The bounds for his property are clearly marked. They're old bounds and they've clearly been there for a long time. So those are really the main 3 points I wanted to cover tonight was some architectural changes to the structure, the additional plantings that we're doing to help mitigate some of the buffer zones to the neighbors, and then talk about the property bounds and where they are and what's happened to them. So.
Very good. Okay, board members. As I said, this is a continuation, so the applicant has responded with some additional data. So I'll start with Brian.
I have no questions.
Okay. Dave?
I'm glad to see that you've done some changes that some of the neighbors may appreciate. I think that's very commendable. Other than that, I don't really have any questions.
Okay, Stephen?
It seems like this is totally the existing regulation. Notice from doing the video last time, there was concern about maybe mitigating impact to the neighbors, and it seems like we've addressed that to some extent as far as your property lines having more plantings and whatnot, so I don't have any.
Okay, Kevin?
Real no particular objections. I thank you for walking through boundaries as you did, the pictures and so forth, because it was one of those who's right, who's wrong type of questions as they were presented. And it's difficult for us to determine what that is. So having gone through that and the detail you provided, I appreciate it. And again, the building itself isn't really big that you're putting in. This is sort of a standard garage. I really don't have any particular objections or questions.
Patricia?
I have a couple of questions. So Tim, will you go over this photo again with 138, 137 and 140 where they seem to meet? They're real close. Just talk a little slower.
Oh, sure.
And just go through it again, okay?
So the way these properties are set up, parcel 137 actually crosses the rear of Mr. Doolittle's property and actually extends slightly past his property corner. So that all the property corners don't actually line up perfect to each other the way the subdivision was set up. So the bound that I'm showing where I reference parcel 137 and 138 is actually a midpoint bound to the Schmidt parcel. It's not actually a corner bound for them, but
It's not a corner.
no, it's a corner bound for Mr. Doolittle's property, but not necessarily for the Schmidt property. They would go beyond that left and right. The bound that I show or on the previous page for 141 and 137 is a property corner bound for Mr. Doolittle's property.
Right.
It's not a corner bound for the Schmidt property, nor is it a bound for the Parnell Cossett property.
Okay.
Okay.
And then this might be related, maybe not, but there seems to be a difference of opinion about whether or not new plantings will happen. Like there's one spot where you say there's no additional plantings. I thought when we talked last time that there was gonna be additional shrubbery to act as a buffer. Did I
There-
hallucinate that?
No, there is additional plantings. I'm trying to think where in my narrative.
So
Maybe I can
reference-
help here, that
Yeah.
the narrative that you're looking at where it says no new plantings is the original narrative presented on May 21st.
okay,
Um,
but then it says revised 624.
That's the one you want.
Okay.
And under our site coverage calculations, right after the page, sorry, the pages aren't numbered, right after the site coverage spreadsheet is our mitigation plant list on the next page.
Right, with the plant.
Yeah, those are the new plantings.
But but somewhere else, it's, oh, I know. So this project narrative that was revised 624, the top of the second page says no new plantings are proposed as part of this submission. But you are doing.
We are, yes, sorry, that was a clerical error. We didn't go back and amend that one question to say that new would be proposed. Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, but there would be. So for the record and the findings, if the board were to vote in favor of the project, I'd probably recommend that we put into the record that new plantings will be.
And the reason for the new plantings is to try to provide some little buffer.
Yeah, I didn't, other than walking the perimeter of the property, I didn't actually go on to the neighbors' properties to see what their views are because I didn't have their permission. But it's very heavily wooded on three sides here. What we're trying to do is when the garage is constructed, you're gonna be digging into the hillside, you're gonna backfill the foundation, you're gonna have all that disturbed soil. And that's all land area that Mr. Doolittle really won't do anything with. So we felt, why not add some native plants in there and kind of beef up that wood line mix?
Okay.
So that's where those plantings are. But we're not gonna remove the leaves out of there, even though they're not native. They're healthy, they're strong, they serve a good purpose. So
So the next question too is, no new plants are proposed.
yes, again, clarify, we didn't, we didn't go back and adjust those. I'm sorry about that.
Okay,
But yeah, so for both of these, we do have new plantings proposed in our mitigation area, which is behind left and right of the garage.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, we have no plantings in front of the garage, so that'll be driveway area. Yeah. So. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay, Michelle.
Yeah, well, I was wondering when I came today if any of the other, based on the changes in the plan, if any of the neighbors would come, and there most probably are some here. So I'm wondering, you know, I appreciate the removal of the windows and such that the lighting would not, but you know, it doesn't address, I guess my question is, did you consider the size issue in the 42-foot, you know, wall that the abutter in the back would see? I mean, was that considered at all to re-angle the building? Did you look at options there? I mean, I'm assuming we're gonna hear a little bit more about that again. You know, again, this is all, you know, there's several ways of doing it, but the reality is that is still the same as what we saw before.
Correct, and we have no plans to change the size of the structure.
Got it.
The structure that we're proposing adheres to the bylaws. It fits,
Sure.
it meets all the criteria for that. There's no bylaw that dictates garage door size. When the abutter writes in a letter, they're looking at 42 feet of wall. It sounds massive, but they're actually not.
Yeah.
Because most of that's underground. So I can change percentages or not percentage, but change words to make things sound bigger than they are. Changing the angle of the garage or the shape of the garage won't change what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And like there is,
Hard to imagine
it's,
when I was out there.
because really where it is, it's kind of tucked in the back corner of the
Yeah,
property.
yeah.
So if we rotate 5 degrees right, we're actually having them see more wall
Sure.
and
No, I was trying to envision
kinda
what that might look like.
tucked in. So we really felt the best way to offset that. And we understand there's neighbor concerns.
Okay,
And no project will ever be 100% approved by every neighbor. It's
I
first
understand that. I
you
just-
try to balance that.
It's always good
best-
to know what you had considered
Yeah.
as alternatives
Um,
based on all the feedback that you got.
Why we got rid of the windows and doors on that one side is because that's the more developed side of the
Yes.
property in terms of
Mhm.
neighboring houses.
Yes,
The other side is where we have our stairs and our access door to the garage because there's more wood over there and that's a bigger parcel.
right.
And the Casa property, their home is closer to Meetinghouse.
Yep.
So there's really less impact
Sure.
there. So that's how.
Yeah.
So some thought went into that. It wasn't that we didn't have thought to it,
Okay,
but we're also kind of shoehorning in this one little corner here.
that's helpful. That's it, Mr.
Okay, Paul, I have a question for you. They have a plant list, but usually we get a planting plan. How do we quantify what they're gonna do?
Well, the planting plan isn't necessarily required. We ask one
Okay,
or the other or both.
okay.
Nice, but so
So
it's up to the
who's
board.
gonna determine what's sufficient? After it's built? After it's planted? I mean, that's my only question. I'm trying to condition something in the conditions and I'm trying to,
would be the time to go through that and make sure that
okay.
the number of,
For example, I've
Plantings are-
written supplemental plannings are provided for mitigating the visual impacts. Is that sufficient? Per the applicant's list or something like that?
I mean, I think it's to everyone's advantage just to be as specific as possible, and then the applicant knows exactly what the expectations are rather than, you know, what's number of, you're getting to number of plants and size and what the coverage is gonna be? Is that what you're trying to?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Do we
Sweet.
need to quantify that or are we gonna leave it just that he's proposing plantings?
It has five,
All right,
I
So
don't
he
know
has,
if
so he
that's-
has the quantity.
If I could assist in this,
Yeah.
so it is always an interesting question you're bringing up because planning board, unlike conservation, doesn't have an oversight in terms of planting. So like when you go to conservation, and you do a planting plan, they want to see every single plant, the dimensions where they are. And then when you finish your project, you have to go back before the Conservation Commission for a COC.
Right.
They physically come out as a board and do a site visit and count every plant, make sure they are alive. Planning board approved projects don't really have that. So when you approve a project and there's a planting plan on it, there's no after site to do that. That really would fall under the building inspector. So when he comes out to issue a final CO for the project or a final inspection, it's up to him to be looking at all the submitted plans to make sure they're in compliance with the approvals.
But how does he do that without a quantification? I'm just thinking out
Would
loud.
be able to,
Because
with-
normally, in the past, we have had
Yeah.
a planting plan that shows where and what size all the plants will be. In this, we have a list of material, but we don't know necessarily where it's going to be, but
Well, I think,
is that okay?
we have a
Paul?
quantity of material and a size.
yeah, so
Right.
I think, in the material provided, we have, as Tim just said, we have the amount of each plant. And then they're to be installed to the rear, left and right sides of the garage. I think we have,
Okay,
you know,
Then what
again,
I'll-
that's the question. If you want to get more specific about a linear distance, you could probably figure that out, scale that off the site plan. But basically, we know the type, the amount and the general area.
okay. So if I make the following condition, supplemental plantings are provided for mitigating the visual impacts per the applicant's project narrative. Are we done?
And we have that on our plan. Our stamp site plan says area to be planted with native
Yeah,
plants.
it just shows the area, but yeah.
But it references
Is
this.
that enough? Just to refer to his
Yeah, I
narrative?
mean, I think a visual inspection is gonna say, do you have the five
Okay,
viburnum there? Are
Fine.
they in the area?
Okay.
I mean, that's basically what we're gonna be looking for.
okay, good. The public, would you like to come and speak? Come to the podium, please, and state your name and address.
Hi, everyone. Christine Schmidt, 370 Meetinghouse Road. Thank you to the board for listening to me and to everybody here. This is an important process. I'm going to try to be brief, and I want to respect everybody's time. My husband had a very productive and positive meeting with Mr. Doolittle a few weeks ago, and that certainly helped us feel a lot better about what was going to happen. And we're also appreciative about the changes, the concerns. He listened to our concerns about lighting. And we're happy that this has all been taken into consideration. We've studied the agenda for tonight, and I did submit some questions. I think some of them were covered. So going right away to the list of native plants. I looked through them. They're lovely selection of plants. To me, most of them seem deciduous. I'm not a great gardener, but from my understanding is that in the winter, all those leaves are going to be gone and we're still going to be seeing what we're seeing. So I'd love to see stuff more on the evergreen side if possible. Mr. Klink pointed out that, you know, there's already a lot of green border around the property, but this is mostly deciduous. These are mostly oak trees. So everything's leafed out right now. It looks great. In the winter, that will be our view. So something to be considered, if possible, add some evergreens. Point 2 of the planning board staff report indicated that one other property on Meetinghouse Road has a 14-foot garage door. I don't even know why that's in there or even relevant. Other than that one garage door, just curious if you found anything else in the neighborhood that is comparable in scale to this project. This is a large garage. It's 42 by 34 feet. It's not your average garage. And it is larger than most homes in the neighborhood. So just putting that out there. So this leads me to questions about the project narrative. And I have a quick question. The project narrative, is this a planning board document?
No,
Oh, so it is submitted by the builders,
by the applicant.
by the applicant. Okay. So, I'm just like some of these questions, on the form don't even like, the answers don't make sense. And this was brought up, I think, in the previous, hearing as well. It says the proposed development shall relate harmoniously to the terrain and to the use, scale, and proportions of existing and proposed buildings in the neighborhood. You know, the builder says yes, but I implore you to drive down Meetinghouse Road and imagine what that will look compared to everything else on our street. So yeah, and again, page 2, number 3, the proposed development shall be in harmony with the prevailing character, height, and scale of other buildings. There's just one other 14-foot garage door on the street. I don't think that makes it harmonious. All right, just putting it out there. So lastly, about the markers, and I appreciate Mr. Klink's walkthrough at the meeting. I think at tonight's meeting, I think that was enlightening. There's just, when you stand at the one marker, is that B? That's the one that's closer to 137?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, kind of.
can See, yeah.
Yeah, so looking up towards Schoolhouse Road, and, you know, Gary's been there with my husband too. It clearly looks like all those trees are on parcel 137. We don't mind. I mean, you know, the trees are trees. We're happy to have them there. But just for the sake of clarity, I would love to see the actual survey. And this is another question for the board. Is it typical? Oh, you've got it. Yay. Because these property lines are crazy on Meetinghouse Road. They're all like pie shaped and crooked and angled, so it's really hard to understand.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's this Meetinghouse Road. Yeah.
Down this line.
Right,
Your property is beyond that.
right.
This is the boundary.
That's the one, and I stood there. So when I probably look this way, that's why it looks like the Leland cypresses are, yeah. So it's understandable, and this makes it.
This- Property down, Doolittle and that here.
Right, okay. Yeah, I saw that one too. I got eaten by mosquitoes.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you, thank you. I think I have that. I think that's with the, so anyway, thanks for that clarification. So one question, is it typical for plantings to be made right on the borderline? Just for my own curiosity.
Is it, I'm sorry, I didn't-
For plantings to be planted right on the boundary of a property? Is there, does it,
plantings can be placed anywhere.
okay,
It's
all
not,
right.
it's not required.
It's not like fences?
No,
Okay,
no.
I just wanted that bit of
In fact,
clarification.
it's better if you stagger them rather than put them all in a row.
Oh, well,
It
yeah.
doesn't look natural when you put everything in a row, as opposed to if you stagger them, it looks like a more natural area.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, I think for the sake, I guess there was a survey that was done. I was
Mhm.
gonna suggest that there be a formal survey done. And we've got that on the site plan because it is a very confusing set of property lines back there.
Okay.
So those are, I guess, in summary, thank you for making the changes. You know, we are going to be looking at a lot of wall, you know. We're fully aware that this item probably will be passed because it's according to code. And, you know, minds are made up. That's okay. The view of the back of our home will be permanently altered. It's going to go from woods to a cedar wall. But we all have to share this little corner of Eastham together. We want to be good neighbors. We want to have a good relationship with the Doolittles and the Potashes. You know, it's a small town. So my main request, Tim, Gary, is that we all do this right and that we do it with respect for one another. You know, maybe during the building process, if we have questions, we might come and ask. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, the letter that you sent is part of the record. You did send in a letter,
Yes.
and it's
thank-
part of the record for this project.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
very much. Yeah, with the photo of the
Yes.
the trees. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else in the audience? Please come up.
Hello, I'm Vel Decker, representing 625 Schoolhouse Road. My mother Linda is also in the audience. Okay, apparently there is an emergency credibility dispute. I would strongly dispute most of the statements made by Mr. Klink, and he may be unaware of the fact that I've submitted over 30 images taken over the period from about 2017 to the current day, showing tremendous disturbance of the monuments, including, you know, images with lots of boulder tracks surrounding all of the monuments. The elevation of the monuments has clearly, the elevation of the land around the monuments has been clearly disturbed. Now, whether or not the engineer has said the top of that monument still stands, but there's 1.5 feet of missing land, I don't know. That's a dispute, and there is a credibility dispute on the accounts of what was upended or not. I believe the monument on the Roy property was missing for over a year. We did see, and I do have pictures of a monument from somewhere that was used as a chuck for Mr. Doolittle's little trailer, when he was storing wood and erecting some of the boulder walls on the retaining side. So that is an active credibility dispute. And likely I will like a copy of the survey, not just that drawing, but a real copy of the real survey showing that this engineer actually went out there and said those monuments were in their correct elevation. And
This is a real survey. This is not a sketch. This isn't a cartoon drawing.
It's signed and sealed
This
by
is a
the
real
surveyor.
survey signed by a professional
okay,
engineer.
so where are the elevations on those sides taken from, considering the fact that there's about 2 feet of missing land under the top of the monuments?
That's not true.
Yes, it
That's
is.
respectfully not true. This
Just
is
as a point of clarification, the monument is not set at a certain elevation. It is locating the corner of a property. So the earth around the monument is irrelevant as far as the elevation of it. It's showing you the property line location,
Okay.
not the elevations.
monuments are, monuments aren't used as an elevation. These are the actual monuments. This is not disturbed soil.
Well,
It
that
can't
one
be.
maybe. Okay, again, there's a
Okay.
credibility dispute here.
All right. Let's,
Just for
Okay.
record, they're all.
Well, okay, they're all there. They weren't always all there. Also, I've never in my life seen monuments sticking up foot. So something's happened. If they mark boundaries, okay, although I believe they also mark elevation. There has been tremendous change to the elevation of the property.
just so you know, monuments don't show elevation.
Okay, well, whatever. There's been a lot of destruction to the lot, so I think I will be forced at this point, from what I hear, unless I decide otherwise, to hire a licensed surveyor. I do believe there's still a boundary dispute, certainly on my side, because our boundary marker is slipping at an angle, and it has been subsiding into the Doolittle property because of the unstable boulder walls that have been reworked many times.
In actuality, it's a good idea for you to hire a surveyor. You can check his work.
Yeah, but
Not
you
his work, but the
And
surveyor's
also,
work.
you know,
Sure.
look at I have never again seen a boundary monument that's tilted into an abutter's property. Generally, they are installed with some care and quite vertical.
Generally, they are vertical, yes.
Okay, so that's a legitimate, I think, boundary dispute. Unfortunately, they're going to take an adversarial, and I think perhaps, you know, whatever there is a active credibility dispute on that. We have all suffered erosion. And I actually think that because it looks like I'm gonna have to file a boundary dispute I think that the board should be, withhold permitting of or of any construction of any type until this boundary dispute is resolved and fair remedy made to all abutters. I did not hear them address the problems with my trees falling down or with damages to the trees in any way that I can even take them down because of the unstable boulder wall. So that's a real problem. We have been, as a family, making complaints against the excavation and the unstable boulder walls and the pooling water back there since 2017. Maybe at that time, we should have filed the boundary dispute then. But we just failed to do it. Now, I don't know what they said. They're going to be moving walls and all this. I've heard no mention of an engineering review of these tall walls. Massachusetts building code requires an engineering review of any retaining wall, I believe, over 6 foot tall. You can't just pile these boulders and have them keep falling in and having a butters lots just fall into the property. Now, at least that is my understanding of the law. I'm not a civil engineer. We're liable to have to hire one. Okay. So at any rate, I have a very long statement I have submitted to the board.
Yes.
Okay, along with about 30 images that I think are very telling on the how wet the property is and the fact that the boulder walls were essentially cut into a cliff prior to any kind of site plan review. They're unstable. I don't believe the town has produced any evidence that the boulder walls have been in any kind of an engineering or town review. So I guess in the interest of time, I am going to, unless the board wants me to read this whole statement, which I doubt they do, it's part of the record.
It's in the record.
Okay, I'm just going to make statements that I'm requesting and requests of the board and requesting your consideration. And some of them are due to safety. And you will, I assume, review all photographs, all other submissions. We request that the town of Eastham condemn all border walls abutting the Potash and Roy properties due to safety concerns and ongoing damages to abutters from the boulder walls that are kind of continuously falling down. And I did submit some pictures of that. I am requesting that the town of Eastham order an engineering design review for what I believe are clearly non-conforming walls between the Doolittle home and the Roy property. And previously, when I was here, I mentioned the plastic impermeable walls and the boulders, and there's no visible drainage at the bottom, which I believe is customary to prevent slumping of the walls into the abutter's property, which is Mr. Doolittle, as we have seen in the sort of changes in attitude of the monuments on our property. We are asking that the town of Eastham Planning Board deny the replacement of the wall between the Potash property or on the southern end of the Roy property without a site plan review based on the original topography of the lot. Basically, they've really minimized the changes. There was a cliff cut into the back, unstable boulder walls, wild filling of the building. The building drawings that they present are all based on fill that they erected. It had nothing to do with the original topography of the lot. So there was no oversight whatsoever on the complete regrading of the property. And from what I can see, no engineering review of the boulder walls that are continually slumping down. We are asking the town of Eastham Planning Board, excuse me, I already said that. Okay, we are asking the town of Eastham Planning to order a careful remediation of the unlawful and dangerous pine retaining walls with due consideration of any wildlife. I know I didn't bring it. I had pictures of box turtles, all manners of things were kind of eradicated during the Doolittle clear cutting. We are asking the town of Eastham to order reevaluation of the adequacy of the proposed leaching field, which is on that drawing, but it just says proposed leaching field with very little information. After an engineering review of all retaining walls, with anticipation that additional drainage is required to prevent slumping of the walls and any further damage to abutters, the leaching field should also be evaluated for extra runoff from this very large building. No matter what they say, it is 34 by 42. It's got a big roof. This was always a wet lot. Images I submitted over the course of many years show pooling down there. It's part of a system of kettle holes leading down to vernal ponds, leading down to Moles Pond, leading down to Meetinghouse. It's all part of that glacial structure. So it's a wet lot. I have loads of pictures showing that. They have proposed a leaching field. We have very little information on that, nor whether or not it will be adequate after changes to the boulder retaining walls. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on the site plan prior to any permits being issued. Okay, we asked the town to consider the scale and suitability of the giant auxiliary building per zoning regulations under 7.4. There is actually a very nice property on 720 Schoolhouse. I attended that site review board. I think it's working really nicely. That building, which is a 2-car garage with an auxiliary building, is literally about 2.06 times or smaller than what they're proposing. So in other words, the Doolittle proposed building is not small. It's not nestled into anything natural. It's just sort of dug into cliffs that they created and, you know, foundation that they rose. And it's a big building. And you will see it. You will see it from our house. You will see it from all over. It's a big building. So I'm going to look at that one. This same kind of salesmanship, let's say, and changes, you know, discussing the topography or whatever, which is a little bit of a fallacy. The same kind of arguments were made on the property at 200 Shirtlift, where my cousin Sarah is in a butter. And that we made real strong arguments. That was a big building for that property. And the way it was laid out was a 3-story building. And really, when you look at it, and I've submitted pictures here, that's a 3-story building. So this, again, is going to be a similar situation where you have unsightly boulder retaining walls and a gigantic building, really big. So I urge the board not to just look at the footprint of this, but also of the scale and whether or not this is in keeping with the neighborhood in any way, shape, or form, which I don't believe that it is. Yeah, also, I would like the town to consider the history of Mr. Doolittle's use of this property, where for years we've been fighting the commercial storage of bulldozers and all manners of heavy equipment, and requesting that the town really not allow that to continue, and to ask yourselves, you know, what are they trying to do with this big building? Is it a really, you know, just a nice garage that they just kind of happen to need or want? And, or is this really a semi-commercial property that we're going to be fighting for the next 10 years? Okay, and I am, frankly, I think it sounds like it's a done deal, but I am respectfully requesting that the town of Eastham reject the entire site plan outright and only allow reconsideration of a 2-car garage in scale and use in keeping with the area. That's because he has all of these unstable walls that have been plaguing us for years. Well, you know, just, I don't know if you really want to reward these kind of behaviors with, you know, such an enormous structure and all of, you know, just sort of accept as history all of this regrading and these unstable boulder walls without, from what I can see, any engineering review. So it's kind of presented in that site plan as a fait accompli, but nowhere have I seen Mr. Timothy Brady certify or warranty these walls in any way, shape, or form, and I believe that's quite intentional. I don't imagine he'd want to risk his license on those things that are slumping into my, you know, neighbors, and I have a picture of one falling down right now. So at any rate, you know, you're welcome to disagree, but I think there's a really serious credibility dispute here that I will pursue. Also, if there is a time that's going to be taken out for a dispute on boundaries, we request the town of Eastham take advantage of the situation with unstable boulder walls and boundary disputes to amend the zoning bylaws to explicitly prevent the use of grotesque retaining walls and associated changes to lot topography. I mean, this has been a really emotional and hard thing for us to have. And I think other abutters who are looking at these like Fred Flintstone abominations, frankly, maybe you think it's okay, but they're just maximizing everything they possibly can by bypassing the site plan review process, right? They know what they're doing. These guys are, you know, been in construction business for a while. They went in there, did all their clear cutting, put up their walls without, you know, any authorization whatsoever. We're all going, my mother and I are going to the town hall. We're getting thrown out. The town doesn't do anything about our written complaints. And now here we are with, you know, kind of a mess and credibility disputes on whether or not the monuments are just weathered or what, you know. And, you know, I have pictures with bulldozers traipsing all over. There were trees knocked down on every place. I have a tree falling in and I don't even know how I'm gonna restore or how I'm gonna cut down these two giant damaged oak trees that gotta go now. And all the trees on his property have to go. All the same problem. He buried them all, he hit them all with bulldozers, they're all dead. So at any rate, I respect your time and hope that you'll understand that this is an emotional issue for myself and my mother. And we'll give fair consideration, will not automatically rubber stamp this while I fight it through other means.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak? Please come forward.
I would like to, but I'm on Zoom if that's okay.
Okay, you'll be next. There's somebody
Okay.
coming up and then you'll be next.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Brian Schmidt, 370 Meetinghouse Road. My wife was just there before. I just have a quick question, clarification. Folks mentioned that on one side of the building, there would be windows removed or minimize the amount of lighting and things like that. I know, Gary, you and I spoke certainly looking at our side. I wasn't sure if when you said right side of the building, is that right side looking at the garage or right side looking, or was it left side out of the garage?
If you're looking at the two garage doors, it's the left side.
So it's not on our side.
There's no windows and doors proposed on your side. There never was.
Oh, okay, but there's a door, right?
No.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, the door and the steps up are on our side.
On their side.
There's a passenger door on the,
I thought the door faces.
And I thought that originally there was a window on that side as well.
There
He's
is.
not the, you're not the Schmidt in the back?
No, we're the
he
Schmidt in
owns
the
both.
back, yes.
Oh, you own both. I'm sorry. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Okay. Yeah. So yes, the other parcel you own.
But again, the one facing the parcel in the back of my. Yep. Yeah, the parcel facing this is less of a concern. But it's the one, our house is basically right here. And again, that small piece of land, right now it's leafed out and it's fine. But from late October to middle of May, those trees are empty. And that's also, I'll get back.
Yeah, please get back to the.
That's
mic.
also why,
in the
why
scribbled area.
why my wife was asking about the height of the trees that are planted as a border. At least if I understood the drawings correctly, it's still a 16-foot height from grade to the top of the roof. So that's a big wall. And, okay, length 40 feet. I just, if we put low shrubs, I think that's great. But I think we need something also that provides a little barrier towards the top, which would be beneficial. And again, I think Christine talked to that selection of trees to be, a nice balance. And again, the staggering, I think, is a great idea. But again, just wanted to mention that about, again, the lighting facing our side. Again, when Gary and I spoke, he was amenable to those changes.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we note that.
Very good.
All right.
Yep.
And yeah, again, appreciate the board working with us to try and find a good solution for everybody here.
Okay, thank you. Lisa R., you're on Zoom,
Hi, Lisa Radke.
and your address?
415 Meetinghouse Road. We're right across from Gary.
Okay,
So one of the things Christine Schmidt brought up was there's no other garages on Meetinghouse Road of that size. 270 Meetinghouse Road has a 3-car garage that's 28 feet by 40 feet. So no, it's not 42 feet long, but it is 40 feet. So it's similar. So yes, there are other garages on that road. My garage has a room over it right across the street and it is taller than Gary's will show it whatsoever. Lelands are, like they said, all the way around their property. And they don't lose their leaves. So there's going to be that coverage. I realize they're not native, but they're made for that purpose. So having them there is a good thing. And it's going to provide the privacy. The reason the land is so low is when Gary was building, the town ordered him to take out dirt that he had brought in to kind of level the property and to take it back to the original topography. That was a town decision, not a Gary decision. They ordered him to do that. He couldn't even put his house at the height of the road. So that's not something that he did on his decision. And my husband wanted to be there to speak again tonight, but he got stuck at work. And again, like I told you last time, I'm in Florida. But I would just respectfully request the planning board to approve this project at 420 Meeting House Road and let this gentleman get on with his life.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Tim, you have two proposed curved walls that are going to go into this structure. Are they over 6 feet high?
They're not.
Okay. Are you aware of any boulders from the existing walls leaving your applicant's property and going onto anybody else's property?
I am not.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak on this? Okay, anybody else online on Zoom? Okay. At this point, then I will close the public hearing for case number PB 2025-06. So we have before us a possible findings of fact. We will vote first on those, and then we will vote on possible conditions.
Board be able to discuss.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. Yes, please, before we get into the findings of fact. So we'll start. There's been a lot of testimony tonight. So board members may have additional questions because of the testimony provided. So I'll start with Brian.
Just one kind of sensitive question. Have you done anything to try to address the long, I want to say diatribe, but concerns of your abutter?
I'll speak for a moment and I'll let Gary speak about how long he's lived there and neighbor interactions. As you can tell, there is emotion to this project and there's a lot of concerns the neighbors do have. I've been to the property several times since I was brought on board with the project, and I cannot see, and this is a truthful statement, all the erosion that everyone's talking about. I did see the pictures from 2017 when Gary first bought the property. He started to fill it in. The town said, no, you have to build the house at existing natural grade, not a proposed grade. So he brought fill in, he did move fill out. There was a lot of earthwork going on the property. Was there erosion then? Probably yes, because there was no legal cypresses, no retaining walls. It could very well happen. And when you look at those pictures, you're going to have flooding, you're going to have ponding, you're going to have those type of things. The property now is very well vegetated. These leland borders are solid. They're on Gary's side. One of the neighbors was talking about trees that she has to have removed down. I can't see where those trees are or what the problems are with those. So when you walk this property now, it's very well vegetated. It's very well secure. These walls do not need structural engineering. They're boulder walls. They're under 6 feet tall. They comprise 3 to 4 foot boulders at the most, and they're tiered back. You're not getting these erosion type things.
All right, let
Yeah.
me interrupt you for a minute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Evergreens, are there any evergreens on the on the border that the two properties abut? Do you know?
Yeah, all 3 sides have Leland cypress evergreens. The reason why our plant list doesn't have evergreens is because in the rear of the garage, it's very shaded and evergreens need sun. So if I were to put evergreens in our plant list, they're just not going to grow and they're not going to serve a purpose. We need to use an understory woodland plant, which yes is deciduous, to help mitigate that area. But you can't do an evergreen in that location because you already have all the large trees around you.
Okay, thanks, yeah. Just
Dave.
I don't really have any further questions.
Stephen?
I don't have any, I don't think the retaining walls really are applicable to this application, so, but it does bother me. But I can't address it because I haven't seen it, so.
Right. Kevin?
I have no questions.
Patricia?
No questions.
Michelle?
No questions.
Okay, I don't
Sorry,
have.
Gary would like to just say one more
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
about
go
neighbor
ahead.
relations.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. When I built the house in 2019, the initial goal was to move into the house, and to finish kind of the back of the house forward. So if you've driven by the house at all, I have a lot of plantings, a lot of walls. It's more finished towards the front of the house. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do in the backyard, nor could I afford to do it until I moved in, settled down for a minute. I wake up every morning, I look outside. I don't want to look at, maybe a boulder falling off the wall or dirt in the backyard. The goal is to put the foundation and finish this property completely as if the front yard is. But, I live there too. I walk the dog, walk the property. I want grass in the backyard. I want the plantings. I want to finish the walls. That's the goal. So, but before I can do any of that is to have the foundation in. You can't landscape before foundation. So that's
Okay.
just so you guys know that's
All right.
the planning.
I think just for the record, my motion to close the public hearing has to be modified since there's been additional testimony after that. So how do we do that, Paul?
Made the motion, no one seconded it.
Great. So there was no motion. So we're still open. Okay. That's a point of clarification. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Since there's a lady that has put her hand up. Do you wish to speak? Please come forward. Since we didn't close the hearing, she is allowed.
Hi, Linda Potash. I own the property at 625 Schoolhouse Road.
Correct.
And I have endured constant motion behind us. Everything we say, I've been thrown out of the town hall for coming in and saying I'd like to talk to the building inspector. A woman used to come out and say to me, he can do anything he wants. And that was the attitude I had to listen to for all the years that we did complain and did write. Because we're part-timers, we were never given credence or audience. And I don't like it that you're allowing an illegal retaining wall. It's never been certified. It's never been looked at. It's just been established. And I have to live with it. He undercut the land to build his retaining wall. And he's killed my legacy oak. It's probably 100-year oak. It's dying because the roots were exposed for almost a year. He left it in that precarious position. So I'm old and I'm tired, but I should have been listened to. I watched him have people come over and explain his case to them from the town. But I never had anyone come and talk to me about what I was trying, and instead I was thrown out of the town hall.
Well, we're not throwing you out here.
Well,
And we're listening to your testimony. Thank you. Okay. At this point, then I will close the public hearing for case number PB 2025-06.
Second.
Is there any discussion on just the closing of the hearing? If not, all in favor, Brian?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Patricia?
I
Michelle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, so now the public hearing is closed. Board members, we have the following possibility, and believe me, this may or may not pass depending on your votes. You're free, as I've always said, to vote your mind. I'm not looking necessarily for unanimous decisions. I'm looking for every member to speak and vote their mind. So the first issue is to prepare findings of fact. And I will read the findings of fact and then we will vote on them. The second issue is site plan approval. And I will read the possible conditions. There could be more, and we will vote on that. So nothing's approved at this point in time. We're talking about the following proposed findings of facts for case number PB 2025-06. Number 1, the property is located at 420 Meetinghouse Road in Zoning District A Residential and J Groundwater Protection Overlay District. Number 2, the applicant has applied for site plan approval residential pursuant to Eastham zoning bylaw section 7.4.4 residential lot intensity and section 10.3 site plan approval residential to construct an accessory structure on a lot containing 20,000 square feet or more where the site coverage exceeds 3,000 square feet. Number 3, the proposed site coverage will be 3,304 square feet with a site coverage ratio of 10.2%. Number 4, the total impervious surface of 10.2% complies with the limits on impervious surfaces for District A Groundwater Protection Overlay District, which is limited to 15%. Are there next standard, Paul, or is there these specific for this project from 5 to 9?
Yeah, the rest of them are the standard.
5 for 10.
Italicized is the supporting.
Okay. So for conditions 5 through 10, actually 11. We'll go through 10 first. We are referencing the standard conditions, findings of fact, I'm sorry. And number 11, we need a recap on letters received.
We have received to date, well, I'm gonna say 5, if we're gonna enter
Right.
Sticker's letter tonight as well. And we'll need to do a count of last meeting's parties and interest.
Okay.
Decision letter.
And anybody in favor? As a letter, not, I know we had some testimony, but not.
They are letters received.
Okay. So normally, Paul, we cite the number of letters in favor and against. Do we have such an item as accounting or not?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So is the board comfortable with letting
Yes.
Jackie put them in according to the record, both in this hearing and in writing? Okay. Is there a motion to approve findings of facts for case number PB 2025-06 as read?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Brian?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Patricia?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. Now, before we get to the conditions, I had a discussion with the applicant. He is in the aquifer protection zone. I spent years protecting the aquifer protection zone. It's one of my pet peeves. So I asked the applicant if he would be willing to provide an oil sediment trap for the drainage system prior to the drainage entering into the leaching pit. And the reason I say that is the leaching pit does not trap oil. It doesn't trap really anything. It disperses liquids. So I have a concern, being that this property is in the aquifer protection zone, I want to protect the aquifer. He has agreed to do that, so I'm going to add that condition into conditions of approval. And having said that, here we go. For case number PB 2025-06, we have the following proposed conditions. Now, the standard ones, Paul, are 1 through 10. Okay. So we will have the standard conditions 1 through 10. I will add number 11. The applicant has agreed to provide an oil sediment trap for drainage prior to its entrance into the proposed leaching pit. Number 12, supplemental plantings are provided for mitigating the visual impacts per the applicant's project narrative. And then we have 13, any changes to the final grade must be reviewed by the planning board, and 14, planning board reserves the right to monitor ongoing construction for compliance with the approved plan. Is there a motion to approve site plan for case?
Chair,
Yeah,
interrupt. There were, on the staff report, there were proposed additional conditions.
oh, yes, I'm sorry. So we now have to change that number. We're up to 13, so this will be number 14. I'm sorry. It's on the next page. Okay. Now, these are not standard, so these should be read into the record, correct? Yeah, let's do it. All right, so now we're at number 14. In accordance with provisions of section 3.10.8 of the Eastham zoning bylaw, storage of permitted materials shall only occur above ground level within a fully enclosed building or in covered containers on an impervious surface and in compliance with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations pertaining to hazardous materials. Secondary containment must be provided as required to prevent potential contamination of groundwater. At no point shall the property owner or operator store, generate, treat, or dispose of hazardous material or petroleum products in quantities or manners not expressly permitted under section 3.10.8 of the zoning bylaw. The storage of de-icing chemicals, commercial fertilizers, manure, or other materials must be conducted in a manner that fully prevents the generation and escape of contaminated runoff or leachate. Number one, the above ground storage of hazardous materials on this property is limited as follows. Fuel oil not to exceed 300 gallons, nominally 275 gallons. Diesel fuel and or gasoline not to exceed 2 10-gallon tanks. Any equipment or vessels stored more than 90 days shall have the tanks drained. Next point, compressed gas tanks shall not exceed 2.
Shouldn't that be one?
Yeah, it should be 1. So we'll say 1 500-gallon buried tanks. Now, does that need a special permit if that were to ever be approved?
We'd have to get a tank, permit from the fire department.
Okay, which would require a special permit from the Eastham Fire Department. Number 2, the use of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, and or nitrite fertilizers for residential use is limited to on the property as follows. The products before mentioned shall be acquired in commonly available retail package amounts only. The products before mentioned shall be used and stored according to guidelines printed on or in the retail packaging provided by the manufacturer. The use and or application of products before mentioned on lawns, gardens, foundation plantings, and so forth shall not exceed 10,000 square feet per residential parcel. So in this case, that would be 10,000 square feet.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Have we considered compressed gases like acetylene and oxygen and that type of thing, which would potentially be used to fix some of this equipment?
Yeah, isn't that in here? Compressed gas tanks.
Yeah, 500 gallons. That's, no, it's not a buried tank.
Oh, it's not, yeah, you're right. How do we handle that,
Well,
Paul?
all this language is the language that's in the.
Oh, it's in the bylaw. He took it from the bylaw. Okay,
Because the lot is in the groundwater protection district, that's why.
Yeah.
We're considering these additional conditions.
and these are conditions that we have applied to other applicants similar to yours in a residential area where you had a particularly larger structure for storage of vehicles, so.
And in the water protection district, you can't govern acetylene gases, those type of things, which are in tanks that are above ground, that if they were to leak, which is go naturally to the air.
Right.
It wouldn't affect that.
It wouldn't be liquid, right?
You could have 2 tanks for like a welding apparatus, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So is there a motion to approve site plan application for case number PB 2025-06, subject to the conditions as read?
So moved.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, Brian?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Patricia?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. You're done.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
If there's any neighbor that wants a copy of the map, I have one if you wish to pick it up here. It'll be up here. Okay. Okay,
Mr. Chair.
yeah,
Yes, okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just, we're gonna go into the last
Yes.
case. I did amend the agenda just to provide a little, I know we
Yeah.
got a long
Yeah.
night here, but I wanted to just introduce our consultant who's on the
Perfect.
line, and she has a very brief, it's a PowerPoint, it's a very brief PowerPoint. I just
Okay.
think it's important for the board to understand the
Yeah.
inclusionary zoning piece.
This is, just so the board members are aware, and I'm sure you are, we're in new territory here. There's a new regulation that calls for, we have to determine site plan approval, which we're normally used to. But we also have to consider and approve inclusionary zoning special permit. So we are expanding our wings and taking on more responsibility. And in my opinion, we need to do it correctly. And so to that end, part of the requirements in the zone suggests that we have peer review on an application. And so with that,
So I'll
go.
introduce Alexis from Barrett Planning Group, and then she has a very brief overview to set the context, and then I would recommend you can open the case, and then we can get into
Great.
the details with Mr. Cole. Alexis, I think you're muted.
Apologies. Thank you, everybody, for having us here. I just wanted to also introduce my colleague, Judy Barrett, who's here with us. And she's going to be chiming in and also helping answer questions as well. So just very briefly, I just wanted to give an overview of what your inclusionary zoning bylaw is all about and how it relates to some of the conditions you may want to look at as you're reviewing a project under the inclusionary zoning. So I will make sure that these slides get to you so you can also review them outside of the meeting, just on your own and discuss in the future as well. But so I wanted to give a little bit of context about who we are. You might be wondering where we came from. So Barrett Planning Group, we're a community planning firm off Cape. Actually, we're based in Hingham, but we have a lot of experience working on the Cape and islands. And we are, we've been working with Barnstable County since 2023 on a shared regional housing services pilot program. So under this program, each town was able to request up to 30 hours of technical assistance for housing support. So town staff asked us to just give some guidance reviewing the inclusionary zoning special permit application, since, as you pointed out, Mr. Chair, it is your first time. So I wanted to just go over what the bylaw says, but I also wanted to talk about how it relates to the state's requirements for affordable housing, because when you're creating affordable housing units through your inclusionary zoning, you want to make sure that they're going to conform with EOHLC requirements and get those units on that subsidized housing inventory. So I'll explain what that means. We're going to be talking about those subsidized housing inventory requirements and the particular program that the units go under, which is known as the local initiative program. And then also talk about what the town needs to do to get that approval from the state, which are going to be the things you want to keep in mind as you review an application under your inclusionary zoning bylaw. So that main takeaway really is just that the special permit review and approval process, it can help the town ensure that the affordable units developed under the IZ bylaw meet state requirements for inclusion on what is called the subsidized housing inventory. So that's really kind of what we want to just focus on. So your inclusionary zoning special permit provision in your zoning bylaw, it was adopted in 2022. It applies, but this is the first time it's being used. It applies to all projects resulting in a net increase of 5 residential units, whether it's new construction or rehabilitation of an existing structure. It does not apply to seasonal workforce housing. So your bylaw provides for what it defines as affordable housing units, which are going to go up to 80% of the area median income, and then workforce housing units, which can go up to 120%. And there's different triggers for when those thresholds will hit under your bylaw. The project that you're reviewing tonight is just, it includes an affordable housing unit. So that's the focus of the presentation. A lot of the things that we talk about, you could have an entire workshop on. We want to keep this brief to about 10 minutes for you so you can get to the your time with the applicant. But I just wanted to explain why we're really just focusing on that 80% conversation, because that's what's relevant to the project that you're reviewing. So just to kind of familiarize you with all these acronyms, AMI, it refers to the area median income, which is determined annually by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And so the applicable region, in your case, it applies to all of Barnstable County. So I referenced the 80% area median income, and that's because the affordable housing units in your bylaw, that is their threshold. And those income levels, they are used to define both the eligibility to occupy a unit, but also to determine the maximum housing costs, such as rent in this case, that could be charged to keep the unit affordable. So these are the current income limits at that 80% threshold for Barnstable County. And so the median family income for the region is $124,000. So those are published annually by HUD. When you eventually review a project with the 120% income level, there'll be another conversation about how to kind of calculate that, because there aren't official income limits to guide you on that. So the definition of an affordable housing unit in your bylaw says it's a dwelling unit reserved in perpetuity for a household earning no more than 80% of area median family income for Barnstable County as adjusted by size of household, and otherwise meeting the standards of EOHLC now, inclusion on the EOHLC's subsidized housing inventory. So that's right in the definition in your bylaw for what you're considering an affordable unit, that it meets state requirements. So that's kind of, you know, indirectly then what you want to consider as you're reviewing a project. Does this meet those requirements? And so the bylaw right now, it has references to DHCD, just you know, understanding that when it says DHCD, that's now the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, or EOHLC. But the affordable housing unit definition specifies the subsidized housing inventory. So that is a list compiled by EOHLC containing each community's count of low or moderate income units. And if the definition says that the units are eligible for inclusion, you want to understand what that means. And so this is defined in what are called the Chapter 40B comprehensive permit guidelines that EOHLC uses. And so there are 5 major requirements to be included on the subsidized housing inventory. So firstly, the units have to be backed by an eligible subsidy program administered by what's called a subsidizing agency. And I'm going to focus on that momentarily, because that defines the type of unit we're talking about. It also restricts occupancy to income eligible households. So the upper cap for SHI eligibility is that 80% of area median income. We put a star there just to point out that some other programs may have lower income limits. Housing costs also need to be affordable to 80% AMI, and there's specific guidance in the guidelines for how to calculate that affordability. They are also subject to a long-term use restriction or affordable housing restriction. We'll talk about what that means, because that's going to be an important part of the documentation you'll need. And the restricted units are subject to an affirmative fair housing marketing and resident selection plan, which will also be an important document that you'll want to make sure you have as the project unfolds. But I referenced that requirement that there's an eligible subsidy program. There are dozens of eligible subsidy programs, but the ones that your bylaw creates, it's under a program known as the Local Initiative Program. And specifically, it's creating what are called local action units. And the subsidizing agency is EOHLC. So the reason we really want to focus on what LIP requires is because that's the subsidy program that the affordable housing units are under. So it has to meet those requirements. So the Local Initiative Program, it is one of many eligible subsidy programs for purposes of SHI eligibility. It came about in the late 1980s as a result of a recommendation that the state look to increase the subsidy programs, and in particular look to provide subsidy in forms other than money. So LIP is unique because it does not provide financial subsidy. So the developer is not getting money from this from a state or federal subsidy source to create this unit. Instead, the subsidy comes in the form of technical assistance from the state. There are construction standards for the affordable unit. So you'll want to make sure that we talk about that when you're reviewing an application. It's focusing on things like distribution of units, not being able to distinguish the affordable units from the market rate from the outside, and then also unit size requirements. There's some flexibility on those depending on the project, and it assigns the compliance monitoring to the town. So I mentioned that the units created under the bylaw, they're called local action units, or LAUs. So you're going to get very familiar with that acronym the more projects that you permit under the bylaw. But local action units, they require approval that they are local action units. So eventually the town will have to request approval from the state, certifying that the affordable unit in this project constitutes a local action unit. And that can be a little bit tricky if you don't do due diligence along the way, because sometimes, you might get a project permitted, built, occupied without confirming with the state that it actually is eligible, and then find later there's some requirement it's missing. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And they are not developed under what's called a comprehensive permit under Chapter 40B. Instead, the defining feature is that there's some sort of local action. In your case, it's your zoning bylaw and the special permit process that's allowing the affordable unit to be created. And again, it has to meet those SHI requirements. So just reiterating what those are. But the ones I want to focus on now is that long-term use restriction, because I did see in the conditions in the staff report, and it's also included in the bylaw, that there needs to be affordable housing restriction drafted. You just want to be aware that under LIP, and particularly for local action units, the state already has a regulatory agreement that they expect you to use. What happens is the developer is going to then take that regulatory agreement, they make changes, red line changes, and that gets submitted as part of the application to the state. So that's kind of good news there. The regulatory agreement already exists, but that's something that you're going to want to be able to review and make sure that the project is in accordance with. So those the use restriction for LIP, again, it's a regulatory agreement. If you were doing an ownership project, there would also be a deed rider that gets attached to the deed of each individual unit. That does not apply to this project. So instead, the restriction is that regulatory agreement from the state. So as I mentioned, EOHLC says that has to be used in the absence of exceptional circumstances. And it provides for affordability in perpetuity rather than the 30-year minimum for SHI inclusion. And it requires the town to certify annually that the project continues to comply with that regulatory agreement and with the LIP program. So the town is the legal monitoring agent along with the state for these projects. Other types of programs that have state and federal subsidy that, they have a vested financial interest in the project. There's other monitoring going on as well, but you are the monitoring agent for these units. The last document that I want to just focus on to make sure you understand, and it's in the it's referenced in the conditions, I believe, and it's referenced in the bylaw. But the restricted units in the project, so in this case, one, they're required to adhere to what's known as an affirmative fair housing marketing and resident selection plan. And that is also going to be required before the town can even get approval from the state as a local action unit. So what that includes, basically a couple things to keep in mind. One, EOHLC actually tasks the developer with preparing it and implementing it. And the plan, this is a big piece to understand. It's not just talking about how the unit is initially filled, such as with a lottery, but it has to provide for ongoing procedures for marketing, addressing unit turnover, maintaining a wait list. So it really is meant to be, the unit is bound to that in perpetuity. And it's also supposed to be updated every several years. But so the town's role for that, this part isn't really part of your concern at the monitoring piece, but you'll want to make sure that you have that and that you review it for compliance with EOHLC guidelines. That's really going to be at the staff level before it gets included with the LAU application. And then on an ongoing basis, the town will have to ensure that the project continues to comply with that. So I just wanted to make you aware of those documents in particular, because again, they are going to be part of the application. So when the town goes to request approval as a local action unit, there's a specific application and it includes some specific information that you're going to want to make sure that you have from an applicant. And so you're also, that application will eventually, it'll be signed by your select board, your local housing partnership, if applicable, and it includes some specific information about the unit makeup. And so it's things that you may not have yet, but you'll just want to make sure are, you know, all in line before, you know, kind of maybe the final stopping point. We'll talk about that, whether it's occupancy and whatnot, that should really all be already in place. But things like proposed rents and all of that information. There's also, so you want to make sure that the final project plans and the permit decision include all of that information that you need for the local action unit application. I do just want to make sure this, just to clarify, once the town gets approval as local action units, there is a later step then for actually getting it on the SHI. But assuming it gets LAU approval and the project continues to do what it needs to do, that is not going to be an issue as long as the town makes the request. But in thinking, when you're thinking of the review and conditions and whatnot of this project or in any future project, you want to think of what the town's going to need to submit that request. So there's going to need to be documentation of the local action, which in this case is the special permit approval. But it's also going to need to have that regulatory agreement so that the developer will have put some red line changes on to make it project specific. Also, we'll need to include proof of the developer's authority to enter into that regulatory agreement. And then a copy of the lease and that marketing plan I mentioned. All those documents need to be in place when you go to make that request to the state. So you're going to want to think of, conditions that tie things like building permit or occupancy to these steps. And so, for example, it might be that, if you approve a special permit with a condition that the building permit might not be issued until the town has been able to submit that complete request to the state for local action unit approval, which would mean you've received all those documents and reviewed them, and the staff would be handling that at that point. But that's a smart condition to have. And then also the bylaw already says this, but that occupancy would not be permitted until the affordable unit would not be permitted until that restriction is recorded. So there's kind of points you can put in the conditions. It looks like I did see one already in the suggested conditions, but that's just a smart way to make sure you're not in the position we've seen towns be in, where they assume a project's going to be approved as a local action unit. Then they hear from the state after it's already occupied that it doesn't meet some requirement. So again, just that main takeaway is just that you want to make sure that, as you're drafting conditions and considering conditions as a board, that you're ensuring that the project is going to meet requirements for inclusion on the subsidized housing inventory as local action units. Your bylaw does specify that the intent is those affordable housing units, such as the one in the project you're reviewing, meet SHI requirements. So I don't think you need to digest all of that for purposes of tonight, but I did just want to give you that overview of how your bylaw and any projects that come under it are tied to state requirements for the subsidized housing inventory, and to always keep that in mind. So I'm happy to answer any questions, whether it is on this presentation or, as you're reviewing the application tonight.
Thank you. I can't imagine anybody has a question. I don't. We have a long ways to go on this, but I do appreciate your outlining it. I assume you will be involved in this project going further, or is this the end of what your involvement is?
So we have a somewhat limited scope where we wanted to give the overview of what local action units are, because it ties to the bylaw. But we are helping the staff review the project and the conditions, and helping with the peer review piece, really looking for that SHI eligibility component. that's the main focus of our role.
Very good.
So,
Board
Chair, I
members?
just want to
Yeah.
say there's a lot going on with this bylaw. It is very complicated.
Yep.
And I think unfortunately for Mr. Cole, he's the first person through the door to utilize this bylaw. So, but yet I think he's still here very patiently, and I don't want to belabor it, but I think the complexity of the bylaw we have, and Mr. Cole's project is not that complicated in
Right.
my opinion. And it really, we're gonna end up talking about one unit that he's obligated to. So there's it's a little top heavy. And I
Right.
think what this has revealed is that we need to work on our local bylaw, inclusionary bylaw, so that it's more nimble with these smaller scale projects. And that is also something that Alexis and Barrett Planning Group is
Good.
going to help us with, or has taken preliminary steps.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I'm sure we will be in touch. Thank you for your help. Okay, this is the first time, so I'm going to call case number PB 2025-09 for 425 Massasoit Road as shown on map 8, parcel 224, Cape Associates Incorporated. Owner applicant seeks site plan approval special permit pursuant to Eastham bylaw sections 3.8.5.1 and 3.8.6.4 for the following items. Number one, a use requiring a special permit per table of uses, proposed mixed-use building in office residential district. Number two, the exterior construction or expansion of structures resulting in an increase of greater than 4,500 square feet of building footprint and or exterior building or site area proposed second floor to existing building. Number three, creation of greater than 10 additional parking spaces. Number four, creation of 5 or more new dwelling units, principal or accessory use. Applicant seeks as an inclusionary zoning special permit to Eastham zoning bylaw section 7.7 for the creation of 6 new dwelling units where any project that results in a net increase of 5 or more dwelling units as part of a single application, whether by new construction or alteration to existing or rehabilitation of existing structures, requires that the applicant shall contribute to the local stock of affordable and workforce housing units. Welcome. First of all, I want to compliment the staff and the applicant. This is incredibly thorough application for a first blush. Especially as an engineer, I can appreciate the work that went into getting to this point in time. You have really created a comprehensive package for us to begin our review with. And with having said that, I will let you do your presentation.
Matthew Cole, principal owner of Cape Associates, the owner of 425 Massasoit Road, and you beat me to it. I want to thank the staff for their help along the way. This has been a long road to get to this point, and in part, we've been patient because we want to do what we think is the right thing and get there the right way. And so I put a lot of thought into the project that's before you, and I'll get into that in a minute. I'll try to be brief. So it's a 1.05 acre site that's bound by Anderson Lane, 2 abutting neighbors, George O'Brien Plumbing Supply to the rear, and then a single family home to the north, who we're in regular contact with just by nature of owning the property, which we've been the owner of the property since 2018. It's a source of embarrassment. It's awful, and it needs to be cleaned up. We were asked to purchase the property by Capabilities so that we could be their landlord while they played tenant and figured out how they were going to either improve that building or move somewhere else. And like many of us business owners, they couldn't staff the business out here in Eastham, and they had to retract their operations to Hyannis, and they pulled up out of that building. After many decades of being there, you'll remember that Capabilities used to be Nauset Workshop, and before that, it was Nauset Inc. fact, I came across today a town report from 1971 where there was an article that the town provided $1,000 to Nauset Inc. to support their vocational program. The entire building was a workshop where folks would go during a day hab program and work in that building. So again, our intention in purchasing it was to be landlord for capabilities, and we're disappointed to see them leave and see those services leave our town. And so the crux of the matter is workforce. And so we're not just looking to clean up an eyesore of a property, but we're also looking to add housing as we do that. So every inch of the property, every service to the property will be improved. And as a second floor, we will add residential apartments. We can build the exact same project that's before you that will look exactly the same with no visual difference and have 4 units on the second floor with the same flow rate that the Board of Health has already approved. Those would be 2 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units. And we talked with staff and we considered whether the 6-unit option was the right option or the 4-unit option was the better option. And quite frankly, after that presentation, I'm not sure I've made the right decision. But what we have so far is 6 one-bedroom units. And from what we've seen as landlords with the apartments that we own, both here in Eastham and in 2 other neighboring towns, there's a huge demand for one-bedroom units. So we're going to continue forward and attempt to stick to the plan for 6 apartments, which again triggers that inclusionary requirement that 1 will be permanently deed restricted affordable at 80%. So again, it's a cleanup of the property. It's 6 apartments. The history's had the property's had a history of issues. I think this project addresses and puts all those to bed. It was previously a public water supply. We now have town water. That will remain. We'll bring in a second water line for a fire protection system. The entire building will be sprinkled. I know that was a question. There'll be a brand new septic system to support the increased flow. It has an IA component, nitrogen reduction component to it. The parking lot will no longer be gravel and rutted up. So when everybody comes in to take their U-turn because they missed the turn into George O'Brien, they'll be on nice pavement. So better traffic flow, better signage, and the facade itself will be cleaned up and will be a shingle style building, much more consistent with the neighborhood than the corrugated metal wall and roof structure that you see there now. So again, the intent is to keep the ground level the way that it is, add a second floor, 6 one-bedroom apartments, and clean up the rest of the site with paving, parking, organized parking, landscaping, and other improvements that will both improve its utility and its view from the street. So I'll leave it there for the moment.
Okay. I do have a question. Do you have rights to Anderson Lane?
That I don't know.
Okay. And the reason I ask.
I do on my other property, and we erased part of it.
And the reason I ask is I see this site plan screaming to separate the residential parking, which would be in front, to the commercial in the back where you have your long parking spaces and everything else, thinking that all traffic can come in here, but the commercial traffic, which is in this area, go out Anderson, and thereby creating residential use only parking in the front. And the reason I say that is we have consistently, as a planning board, tried to separate tractor trailer traffic from residential. And for example, in this plan, you have a residential entrance here and a residential entrance here, office on the first floor, residence on the second floor. And I can see a conflict occurring, backing up perhaps a truck with a trailer and not seeing a pedestrian using the residential units going into this entrance. And that would be one. Number two, the fire truck would then be able to get out without backing out onto Massasoit Road. So if you could investigate the possibility of going out on Anderson, I think it would make a better site plan from the standpoint of separation of commercial versus residential. That was the first question I had. The second question is, it looks to me that, and I don't know the answer to this, the handicap won't be able to use these units. Is that an issue? Because you're on the second floor walk up. There's no elevator, correct?
Correct.
So is there an issue from the standpoint of affordable housing, workforce housing, or anything else that says, well, you should be able to give that to handicapped people? I don't know. of one.
None that I'm aware of.
Right.
My building, 3 doors down, has residential over commercial, no elevator.
Okay. You know, obviously, we're at the beginning here, and I don't want to monopolize, and I don't know how much people have to even present to Matt tonight. Obviously, this is going to be a project that's going to have significant issues, but Brian, let's start.
I just have one question. Would you be changing the footprint? Not, you're gonna add one story, so it'll be a 2-story structure, but to the once capabilities structure, you're gonna change that at all besides, you know, the cosmetics and?
No, in fact, the entire footprint is not being raised to a second story, just the front portion. So if you look at the footprint, it's actually 2 rectangles put together, and it's the front rectangle that's going up. The footprint is not changing.
Yeah, and it's not gonna look, I mean, so it wouldn't look like an apartment building. It would just be anything additional. It would just have another story, another half story.
So we're adding another story to the existing footprint. That's right. Yeah, and using roof lines and variations in the architecture to, bring it into scale.
One other question, there is another ugly building behind this structure. Is that a part of this or no, or is it just
Separate property.
separate property?
There's only one building on this property.
And superfluously, any idea what is going to become of that once you develop this?
Zero idea.
Do you have any interest in that? Does that
Part of
sound-
this project.
I have plenty of headaches.
Thanks.
I'll take aspirin, but I don't need more headaches.
This is good. Thank
Thank
you
you.
much.
Dave,
I don't really like asphalt myself, and I understand you probably need some of it. But over on your other section there, you have some concrete things that go blocks in the ground. I was wondering if you could incorporate something of that nature into a portion of this so that, you know, it wouldn't just be impenetrable.
What's the concrete you're referring to?
Over in your other,
it was
Bill?
as part of your original site plan approval, this planning board requested and you provided, I think it's called K-Crete. It's a concrete structure with grass, earth and grass in between the vertical sections of the block. So you can park on it without sinking. But when there's no car there, it looks like grass.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Grass
front part of
paved.
your building.
Okay.
You take a look. That's all. That's what we did before. Good.
well, I just think it should be,
Yeah.
you know.
We did
extended
impose
over.
that before. Usually use it for spillover parking, but certainly can be implemented. Okay. Stephen.
I don't know what you do. I'm sorry. I'm Cape Associates.
We build buildings.
Okay, so then what would be on the first floor?
So the first floor will remain much as it is now. There is just general office space up front and a wood shop in the rear, and that's not proposed to change.
Okay. No, I'm fine with
Kevin.
everything I know so far.
First of all, congratulations on taking this on. It's very detailed, as had been earlier stated, a lot to sift through. Hang in there on the inclusionary zoning. It gets easier as time goes on, or so they tell me. I used to be in lending, and a number of projects we were involved with involve that, and you'll find along the way, there's a lot of very wise people that can guide you through it, and it's a lot of work perhaps for one unit, but it's worth it in the end. You will feel good when it's done. I really don't have any particular questions at this point. I know that because the project is so massive, there's a lot of things that have to be gone through. But I just wanted to compliment you on the project. I think it's a good one. I think that bringing in 6 units is what the town needs. I think it's the right way to go with the single bedroom one. It's a big need here in the town. You folks do this for a living, so I don't have a lot of concerns about your capabilities to do it. But I think at this point, I just want to hear more in general about how this is going to be approached. I don't have any specific questions in favor of it, just in terms of the concept. So,
Patricia.
So amen to what Kevin said. I think we really appreciate that you're here and that we're learning together on this. And I also appreciate the supplemental application because I did have some questions about some of the issues that you've addressed here. So I think what you've given us so far is really thorough and I really appreciate it. That's it.
Michelle?
Yeah, so likewise, I love this project and I'm in the human services area and actually that presentation scared me about, you know, what it will take to create affordable housing for folks. On the other hand, I will learn about it and study it. So I do have a question. So, and I live in that area and I love that you've taken on that building. And I do wonder what's happening with the plumbing company, but maybe they'll be inspired by your efforts. I do have a question, and maybe it's not for you, but it's just in general, because this forms-based code, you know, kind of, it's a test of that because there's a, you know, a form over substance issue, you know, related to the square footage in the units that might be compromised in meeting whatever the form-based code says that the external, you know, facade needs to look like. So that looks like an area, I guess I don't have a specific question unless you want to comment on that, but it feels like that may be an area that we want to take, you know, take a softer look at in order to maximize the square footage of the living space in the apartments.
So I'm a builder by day.
Yeah.
A engineer by schooling,
Okay.
and I am not an architect, but spent time talking with Paul and the staff about the building, and our team that designed this spent good care to make this not look like a boxy metal commercial building. So there's care given to differentiating the facade, and creating different geometry there to not make it look like one building that went up and like the existing roof has a
Right.
very flat pitch to it.
Yep.
Personally, again, I'm not an aesthetics expert, but I think the existing building is really unsightly and that this will be much more aesthetically pleasing, and that both the materials and the geometry will look much more Cape Cod-like than what's there now. And again, it's a complicated part of town that's a little bit confused. Is it residential? Is it commercial? And again, this speaks to less than 50% being residential, which the proposal is. And so I hope that the building's fabric or you know, visual representation kind of represents what it is.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess one other question, when you redo and put the second floor on, are you going to re-shingle the back building that's there now to make it match the what you're doing in the front?
I hope so.
Okay.
The plan, you know, is really focused on that front part
Yeah,
where we are going.
And you're not,
but
you don't need our approval to
I
put shingles
understand
on the
that, but-
building, so that's okay. All right.
I think it would look strange if we don't.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Does the wood shop make a lot of noise and is it dusty and stuff like that, or are those things pretty much contained within the building?
Pretty contained. I haven't had a single complaint. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie.
Great. So as this is, you know, our first use, with form-based code in particular. So I'm going to focus our attention on the site plan review part of this for a few minutes.
Sure.
And I know that the staff report is 4 to 5 times longer than what you're normally asked to review for a project. So I'm going to walk through a few pieces of it. I do want to call your attention in your packets to this, the one that looks like a school worksheet, the compliance analysis, because there are a lot of elements of the zoning at play here. Give you a moment to find.
Here it is. I got it. I got it. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. So if you take a look there, this is our sort of walkthrough, in particular, the dimensional requirements of the office residential district where the building is placed. Just to sort of orient you, you have some basic project information at the top. This is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. So there's a few notes there for you that we can take a look at. And then the rest goes line by line through the zoning and the dimensional tables. And I'll give the short version, which is overall, this is a compliant design.
Good.
So in terms of setbacks, in terms of building height, in terms of residential unit size, the percentage amount of outdoor amenity space, all of these little details that we've gone through in this new zoning are in compliance. The articulation standard is one, as Michelle has pointed out, that is not. We've talked about that in our preliminary reviews. You'll see in the notes on the staff report, which if you are looking for that particular spot about articulation would be on page 6, which you all now have. You did a few hours ago. I want to explain this one because I know it's not necessarily
All the pages are missing 6.
intuitive. You're not.
It's not the new one.
I don't have a.
I got 5 and then 7.
The new ones. That are the new
You gotta
print
throw away
with the
one that
highlighting.
It's missing the even.
It's okay, even if you don't, you'll be okay without it.
It's off with roof form.
Okay.
building
We can-
size.
All right, fine.
Is that right?
Yep, got it. Got hers.
Good. So I'm not going to read for you word for word here, but the notion as we looked at these elevations, the specific dimensions call for, if you were building a brand new building, variation with an articulation that would be 10 feet wide and 7 feet deep, right? So that the building is not one long wall. In this case, on the pre-existing footprint, to do that would be either a significant engineering and architectural challenge to bump the building out and force the project to create space that it does not need and would actually enlarge the square footage and bump up against our coverage limits, or have that articulation recede in, particularly on the second floor, which is the specific expansion controlled by the bylaws. So if we were to say, to Cape Associates, to this project, you need to bump your building in 7 feet for a 10-foot stretch every 50 feet, right? As I've explained in the staff report, we would be losing square footage of affordable housing. The intent of both the ECSD, the purpose statement at the start of that bylaw, and of our inclusionary zoning bylaw puts a priority on developing housing. And so in our notes, the statement here is that we feel the preference is to maximize the housing space rather than to lose units for the sake of a very specific to the foot architectural piece. With that in mind, there are still variations and articulation. They are just not specifically 10 by 7. So that is an area where, if we are looking at it with the finest tooth comb, the project does not technically comply on the specific expansion, but you are on a discretionary special permit and have the ability to discuss that and make a decision regarding perhaps the priority on housing and having the floor space to create all 6 of those units. I'm gonna pause there and ask if there are questions.
So,
Articulate.
yeah, I have one question. If we were to agree with you and decide that this particular indentation in the building facade is not required, could we, in the findings of fact, cite that and cite why we want to not comply to it?
You can, Mr. Chair, and it is in the proposed findings of fact.
Okay.
And
Fine. Thank you.
very welcome.
I have a question. Maybe it's from Mr. Cole. You said that this area was hodgepodge. So it's a special permit, but would you say that this is more commercial or more residential?
The zone, the property or the structure?
That's just the question. Nobody knows.
Okay, so this is in a zone that allows for both. It asks for 50% or less to be residential, which we comply with. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Thank you.
Great.
You know, the idea of that is, right, residential over commercial,
Right.
right? Top of shop type stuff, like back in the day, that was the thought. And so,
That's been talked about for ever since I've been on the board since 2009.
You know, I'll bring up one other piece here that again, because this is a pre-existing non-conforming footprint, you know, when we've discussed our new bylaws, one of the elements in a brand new building is building frontage in what we've called the building frontage zone, and where the entrance to a building would be, given the district, a specific amount of feet away from the roadway. In this case, those front doors are about 98 feet back from the road. If we were building brand new, we would ask you to bring it forward considerably. Again, we look at the project and say the footprint is what it is. It would not make a whole lot of sense to ask that the building somehow shift on the order of 50 to 60 feet,
Absolutely not.
which is a new building.
Okay.
And so that's one other area where if you're looking very fine tooth at those bylaws, it is not in the building frontage zone. I will add, and I think it's a great merit in the project, is that's where you see a lot of that residential open space with shade trees and benches. And so I would say that the applicants are doing a good service there to improve the streetscape.
Yep. And again, we could do that in conditions, I assume.
The
I mean, on
landscaping-
findings of fact.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, that can be in the findings of
Okay.
fact.
Okay.
Wondering if there are other, you know, as you've been able to take a look at the staff report and at the compliance analysis, if there are other pieces where you are wanting some clarification.
Okay. I guess my only other question, and I think you've answered it, but I'll ask it anyways. Since we are more or less acting as the planning board without a zoning board of appeals, is there any part of this application that would have required zoning board of appeals if we weren't taking it as the new district?
No.
So it's in compliance.
It's in compliance with all the district setbacks.
That's fine. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I guess that's all we'll be able to do tonight. First of all, I like the project. I think you did a great job in preparing the documentation. I think you did a great job in making staff part of this application, and I compliment you for that. The next step would be to allow staff to, where are we? To absorb some of this, or what's your
We've
pleasure?
engaged in more than the required minimum preliminary meetings
Okay,
with the applicant. We've been provided with all of the information relevant to your decision-making criteria. You know, in terms of your site plan, right, you have two special permits here. So in
Right.
terms of your site plan special permit, we feel that we've received the information and passed along to you to determine that you're in compliance within the design standards, which is the other sort of new piece of information for you. That's where, you know, you get into things like building materials. Everything that we have seen in this project adheres to our new bylaws and design standards. In your staff report, you have a full suggested findings of fact. They are lengthy. You also have a full suggested set of conditions.
okay. I personally would suggest that we take a month to review everything we've just got. From the standpoint of this is a lot to digest. Not just this, but what we saw in the video from everybody. I don't know how you board members feel. So I'm gonna poll the board, and just ask a very simple, basic question. Do you feel comfortable enough in one night to vote on this? Or do you feel you need an additional month to review the documentation?
I'm not sure.
Okay, Dave?
I'm comfortable, but I think the idea of getting access from, is it Anderson?
Anderson,
Lane?
yeah.
I think that's an important thing to look at. And for that reason, I wouldn't want to vote on this tonight, although everything else, I think it's a wonderful project and so forth, but I think that's a
Okay.
very critical
Okay.
thing to find out.
I'll certainly look into it.
Yeah.
There's nothing I have seen that indicates that I have any right to go to make a curb cut onto Anderson Lane and turn to Paul and just ask if there's anything that you, and again, that it
Yeah.
creates a difficult turn with headlights pointing into a residential property. So I certainly will look into it. I don't think that's the right move for my neighbors.
Stephen?
Well, I like the plan, but there's an awful lot of information here, so I'm a little bit nervous about just saying, let's go forward now. But if I was to vote now, I'd say, yeah, go for it.
Kevin?
Same feeling there. I know it was pointed out some of the issues with the building that we have and losing space and so forth. I have no issue with modifying that to make it work, kind of thing. But there is an awful lot of information. I feel pretty comfortable with it, honestly, but I want to make sure that I've crossed all the Ts and dotted the Is.
Okay, Patricia?
So I think the staff did a great job of tying in this project with the strategic plan and with the market study. I think I'm happy to vote for it and just let it continue.
Okay, Michelle?
I'm comfortable voting tonight.
Okay, so we have 2 or 3 that are comfortable for voting tonight?
You include me in that.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3.
That's 2. I mean, if.
Well, get.
Okay.
Girl parent.
Just to remind, so there's 2 special permits, the site plan and the inclusionary. The inclusionary, we don't have all the components.
And one without the other, to me, means that there's no actual urgency. It's not as though he can do anything with site plan approval without the inclusionary being part of it. So I don't know what we're losing.
So I'm happy to continue another
Yeah.
month with 2 requests.
Go ahead.
So I've heard that you'd like me to look into grass pave, and I've heard that you'd like me to look into Anderson Way access. If there's anything else that you want me to come back with, please put it on the record so that we don't have the same, thing a month from now, number
Yeah.
1. And number 2, I would just say, I have total confidence in the staff and the board. I have very little confidence that in a month, we're going to get the inclusionary permit, all issues sorted out, and that I would encourage you to consider my application and others that come after me, that those components be codified and finalized before certificate of occupancy and not at this early stage.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, just to clarify that, to our knowledge from our conversations, it is not necessary to have the inclusionary zoning special permit completed prior to or at the same time as completing
I agree
the
with you.
special permit
I agree
process,
with
and
you.
we can condition.
So, and the only other clarification I'd like to make
Sorry,
is, I'm sorry, go
to
ahead.
interrupt. I think Alexis had a comment to.
Yeah, hi, thank you. So, I did see in the staff report, that the condition about the certificate of occupancy, being delayed as it says in the bylaw, and that's great. I think, the only piece that it might be worth, just kind of checking in about that I just wanted to comment on is, the unit size, because LIP has design guidelines that they, impose, but they often do deviate from. So I think it may be worth, I'm not sure if this would be a request of the applicant or staff, but just conferring with EOHLC's staff about that piece. They do make, considerations, especially for, conversion projects and things like that, things that are doing great things to work within the existing building footprint. So I don't anticipate that being an issue. I just think that's maybe a smart thing just to check in with LIP staff about. So I don't know if that affects the applicant or staff.
Thank you. That's, yeah, appreciated, because the unit sizes that are proposed here are certainly in compliance with our bylaw,
Mhm.
We don't know about the
but we'll
state.
need to
Okay.
confirm that.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
what my goal would be from staff perspective, and I think is when we come back, we've done all the behind the scenes due diligence and worked with the applicant and our consultants, just get all this, all these documents, all the paperwork vetted and squared away, because it's a lot for the board to
Oh, no
digest.
question about it.
We want to do all that work so that we want to keep things moving expeditiously.
Agreed.
So that's why I just was emphasizing, I think the site plan review piece is pretty tight, with, you know, accepting those two items you brought up.
Well,
So,
I was gonna
but we
say,
still need to come back
Yeah.
nonetheless.
so we're gonna continue until next
Yeah.
month, but if Anderson Lane isn't available, could you look at somehow separating the commercial tractor trailer parking and movements from residential? I mean, I don't know how you would do it if you didn't have Anderson Lane, but I'd like to see the fact that the tenants would use the front and the commercial would use the back. And maybe that's by nature, the way it's laid out, but just think about it. Think about just protection of pedestrians in the commercial area from incidents with tractor trailers. There's an issue in my mind that we've always tried to separate and get pedestrians away from commercial traffic. And I'm hoping Anderson will be the solution, because that would also solve your fire truck turning movement situation. Because I don't know how a tractor, fire trucks can get out of this site without backing out onto Massasoit, and we certainly don't want that. Yes.
Yeah, so just two things I want to raise there, and one is a question to the applicant to maybe discuss the commercial usage of the property and what types of vehicles, you know, would be in and out of there, and then we
Right.
should talk about the fire department's feedback as well.
Yeah, so again, we've left a striped spot in the back for a fire truck to turn out. And the front northern parking spots have chargers, EV chargers there that are meant to be fleet charging for us and not for the renters. So I'll go back and take a clean look at
Good.
how we allocate the different areas. But again, generally we have small trailers. We don't own a single tractor trailer. We occasionally do get a big truck delivering plywood or something, but yeah, it's you know, rubber tire flatbed trailers that we use.
So we're not talking about excavators coming on the back of big trailers or heavy dump trucks in and out, or?
We do own a single excavator. I'll be
Okay, as I say, just look into it. Okay, I
The
think
fire
we're,
department comments would just be the other
Yeah.
We've provided you with some of that feedback from the fire department. They are also interested in access through Anderson, if possible. If not, verifying with the fire department what may need to be a reconfiguration of some parking for what they call a hammerhead turn.
Yeah,
K-turn.
and that's what we've intended to give. That again is based on other applications that
Okay.
we've done for them.
Great.
Okay, having done all that, is it your request to continue your application to our August meeting?
Sounds like it is.
Okay. Do we have a motion to continue case number PB 2025-09 to August 20th, 2025?
So moved.
Who did- I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, we could have, it's going to be here next month. You want to do it now, though? We didn't close the hearing yet, did we? No.
I mean, you can.
Can we have her come up? I mean, you have another opportunity, but yes.
Okay. We'll do it separately.
All right, fine. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Brian?
What are we doing here?
We're voting on continuing to next month. Brian?
Aye.
Dave? Steve?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Patricia?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis and Judy.
Yeah,
Be in
thank you
touch.
very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much. Yes, have a great night.
Thank you.
We have a few more agenda items. and if
I
you're
know.
ready for to go,
We got minutes of June 18th.
So moved. Oh.
Any corrections to the as written minutes?
There are two that we have already corrected to Mr. Early's
Okay.
stickity last name.
Needs to be spelled right.
All righty. So therefore, is there a motion to approve the the meeting minutes of June 18th, 2025 as amended? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of that. Okay, we have to find people to work. We need chair, vice chair. Do we still have what do we have, a clerk? Is that what we
I
have?
think technically.
So we need three people to take these positions. So I'm going to open it up for nominations from the board. What's your pleasure?
I'd be open to the vice chair role.
Okay, so you're going to nominate yourself.
Myself.
Okay. Anybody, all right, well, okay. Any other now? We got to find two other people.
You.
Oh, for chair, all right.
Who's clerk tomorrow?
I don't know.
I think
it's her.
Oh,
it's me, because I don't want to be the clerk, so I decided to be it.
does anybody wish to be the clerk?
I can be the clerk.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Dave, do you want to do something?
No,
Vice chair, that's.
I'm happy to be where I am.
All right, okay. Absolutely, and very good. So do we have to vote on that?
Yeah.
All right, so is there a motion to vote for the three people as nominated?
So moved.
Second, anybody? There you go. All in favor? Aye, 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 aye. Okay. Anybody opposed? No.
Dan Koppelman, Chair, Michelle Violin, Vice Chair, Brian Earle, Clerk.
Correct. Okay. Now, we got any other business?
Adjournment.
Anything else you want to talk about? So let's talk about
Please.
what may or may not happen between now and when Cape Associates comes back. Are we going to have any more memos? Are we going to have any more reviews? Are we going to have any more documents?
That is always a possibility, right?
Okay.
If the applicant submits more information to us, then
No,
we're
because we asked
working
him questions, so
in- we're
I'm
working to be able
we
to
will.
get
Good.
it to you.
I would love to see the answers to those questions. That would be great.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that would be great, and we're always getting them to you as quickly as
I
as
agree.
we can. I know this one's a heavy lift.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to look through. I know Paul always says this, so it's my turn to say it. We are available to you to look these over in detail, to answer questions, to go over the bylaw, to make sure that you are comfortable with what you're voting on, and that you've had a chance to, work through any curiosities or inconsistencies. So please feel free to make some time with either of us, with both of us, to help you
Okay.
work through it if you would like to.
It was
Okay.
excellent work, Jack.
Yeah.
Took.
That was a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, really
It's-
good.
it's A
A
lot
lot
of
to
work, and this
digest.
agenda was unique.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
I hope this agenda was unique.
No, I hope so.
So I would say it's a lot. The bylaw is very top heavy, and that's
Yeah.
what this is revealed. And so we're gonna work with the consultants. We need to come up with a inclusionary zoning light or something. Cause like folks like Cape Associates, they're not like housing developers. They just have these smaller projects, and we're gonna see the same thing with the Brundage project that we got a preview of
Right.
there. And it just, we wanted to get that bylaw on the books a few years ago just as a protection, so that if something large came through, we didn't lose out on any ability to get some affordable units. But what it's revealed is the net's catching minnows and whales, and it's just it's a lot of overhead for just 6 units and 1 affordable. So
Right.
unfortunately, we can't help.
Very patient.
We got to work with the bylaw that we have, but we'll do our
I
best
would
to move
agree.
forward.
I would think in terms of some flexibility on this board's part. In other words, to see a part of the regulation that's set in stone and there is no waiver bothers me from the standpoint of how we get around it and why do we have to get around it? Why can't we be involved in determination of a project? So specific in the little details that we can't even conform to our own regulation. I mean,
And I'll say the reason why it's so rigid is because we're trying to comply with all the state standards. So like we get.
I'm not
I
arguing
know,
there's an
it's
reason,
scary,
but it's scary.
I'm the one who wrote it and
I know.
I'm the one saying we gotta revisit it. But
Okay.
if we get the units, if they're gonna create the units, we want to make sure we get credit with the state. And that's why it's so rigid, but we need to
Well,
look at,
so.
is there room to be more flexible?
Looking forward to next month. First of all, do we have a light agenda next month? Do we have any applications or we don't know yet?
We have no new applications to
Good.
date. The filing deadline is the 22nd, which is next week.
Okay.
So
Assuming we don't, we should be able to get, at least in my opinion, through site plan, at that point. I don't know about the inclusionary and I'm not sure we have to, but from the standpoint of what we normally are used to is site plan approval. I think that they've done a good job preparing a site plan. My only question is, can we make it better? Can we do the separation of commercial versus residential use? And can we make it the way we want it? And if that's the case, then yeah.
Yeah,
can't
I
see
think
any reason.
the staff work between now and then is just to figure out like all these documents that
Yeah.
were mentioned, like what actually has to be all finished and ready for signature now, at the time of the
Right.
voting versus what can we condition that it's based on later on building permit issuance or other things. That's what we gotta. So that we
And
can
the-
come back and say, you may be ready, you may be ready to vote because we have everything tied up,
Right.
or maybe not. That's what
Maybe
we gotta
not,
work on.
but there's a little difference, and I'll point this out to the rest of the board members in this application. He already owns the property. So we're not dealing with somebody who's under contract, who has to have a contract approval within a certain date. And one approval versus another, doesn't necessarily mean anything until he can build the project anyway. So I think given the time, we can take the time and we can review it properly and not feel rushed. I felt very rushed to try to make a decision tonight. And I think we all need a little bit of breathing room here. So I'm happy with the fact that he's already owned it. I'm happy with the fact that it's going to be ultimately one approval to build this project. And I think we're trying to head towards that. So that's good.
Is Anderson Road, is that a public road?
No,
No.
it says right on the map, private. So he has to determine whether he has rights to it.
Oh.
He abuts it. I just don't know if he has rights to it.
It has to.
And that would solve the fire truck. That would solve the separation of the two uses and
it may be that it solves that and reduces his parking
Yep.
such that he's no longer in compliance on parking. So we'll have to balance those things.
okay.
Good
So-
point.
Jackie and Paul, did you design this? It was really helpful.
It
to
was,
look through it.
yeah.
And I think, what helped me is having the new zoning code so that you could see where all this comes from.
Right.
So it took me a couple of days to do it, but it works.
Thank you.
That's
And,
good.
and if there are things that left you confused, these are living analyses documents that can be updated so that they work for you.
No, he provided a lot of information.
Yes.
And
So well done.
what I
Yeah.
wonder about is, there's something about the perk test, right? Are we relying on someone who knows much more than I do about the different subcategories of what's included in the site plan? Like there's one page that does talk about perk testing and the flow.
It's part of site plan approval.
Right, but I'm not gonna pretend to know.
Well, you're talking about the septic design.
Right,
Septic.
right.
So that is all gonna get.
That gets
permitted
Board of
before-
Health approval.
So there's so much detail, and that was one I was like, whoa.
Well, here's the bottom line. It is part of site plan approval, but the Board of Health approves that. So what we do, to rest your mind at ease, we approve it subject to Board of Health approval. So you don't have to review it, technically.
But that's as you're learning it, right? That's a
Yeah.
great example of
Yeah.
feel free to pick up the phone and call and say, do I have to pay attention to these perk test things? Is this us? And we can you know, walk you through that. Anyone, please.
Sounds good. Okay, a motion to adjourn. It's only almost 8 o'clock.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all
Wait a
right.
minute, who was the second?
We'll give it to Patricia. She's a little late, but that's good.
Michelle.
There was at least one other.
I said.
All in favor, aye. Aye. See, what's this stuff?